Chapter 241. Sword Venerable Fudao, will you battle me? Liya returned this time and brought many gifts for Guan, including immortal cultivation medicinal herbs and overseas magic artifacts. When Guan tried to make some polite conversation, Liya didn't bother with the pleasantries and left directly through the window, leaving Guan in silence. Yang Jian also marveled at what a peculiar person this uncle master was. Although Liya seemed unreliable, Yang Jian still held a good opinion of his actions and words. Just based on Li Ya's previous declaration that he would protect him to the death, Yang Jian acknowledged him as his uncle master. After staying in Mystic Valley for a while, Guan took Yang Jian and Blood Prison Great Saint to the Outer Gate City. With the approaching Grand Tournament, cultivators frequently flew across the sky, not just from Supreme Sect but from all over the world. No matter the outcome of the Grand Tournament, Supreme Sect was set to gain substantial benefits this time, and Guan was eager to see how much profit Supreme Sect would share with Sword Venerable Fudao. Days passed by. 5 days later, though the weather was hot, the inner and outer gate city was crowded due to the imminent start of the Grand Tournament. In front of the South City Gate, countless cultivators gathered, forming a vast sea of humans, their heads bobbing, creating a spectacular scene. Following their gaze, in the sky stood an array platform surrounded by 72 large flags, with a diameter over 100 miles, its base emitting a faint golden light forming a golden platform that blotted out the sky when looked at from below. This array, known as the Luotian Floating City Battle Array, was purchased by Supreme Sect from Star Sea congregations, specifically for great cultivators to compete in combat, at a huge cost. Maintaining this array required massive amounts of spiritual energy. It was said that Supreme Sect had already channeled the spiritual energies from their underground spirit lineages into the array. Every city and medicine valley within Supreme Sect had formations projecting the scene of the Luotian Floating City Battle Array. These transmission formations were not very expensive, so even Mystic Valley had an array set up by Supreme Sect, allowing all disciples in the valley to watch the match. In the Third Medicine Valley, over 900 disciples gathered in the pavilion area, some meditating on the ground, some sitting on benches, looking up at the light screen in the sky, waiting for the Grand Tournament to begin. Before the combat even started, the disciples were already excitedly discussing. Guan sat by a stone table, savoring pastries. Yang Jian and Xian, Xiaochuan, and Yu Yingying sat at the same table, also discussing the Grand Tournament. The names of each great cultivator were mentioned from their mouths. Over the past decade, many oceanic great cultivators had established their fame in the 3 dynasties, making it uncertain who would claim the title of the world's #1. These ocean cultivators temporarily stayed in the 3 dynasties region, leaving many opportunities behind, promoting the development of the immortal cultivation world and establishing a reputation for virtue and greatness. Yu Yingying mentioned an ocean great cultivator named Yellow-Robed Immortal Lord. Yellow-Robed Immortal Lord claimed to be the reincarnation of an immortal, possessing vast divine skills. The Star Sea congregations tried to recruit him but were refused. His whereabouts were mysterious, like a dragon glimpsed but never seen fully. He liked to teach beings with mediocre talents, earning admiration. She believed Yellow-Robed Immortal Lord could claim the first position in the Grand Tournament. Xiaochuan couldn't help but say, "Why are these ocean great cultivators meddling in the Grand Tournament? Isn't this bullying?" Yu Yingying replied, "Although the 3 dynasties region is weak, the 7 stars spirit realm in the mainland is not. As long as cultivators from the 7 stars spirit realm participate, other great cultivators will be drawn in, all wanting to establish their fame by stepping over the 7 stars spirit realm. Of course, there might be undercurrents I'm unaware of. This Grand Tournament is indeed unusual with so many great cultivators joining." And Xian nodded, saying, "It said there are 500 participants, with half coming from overseas. The 3 dynasties cultivators only make up a third. Besides Liya, the weakest among them is in the Mystic Heart realm. Many withdrew after seeing the participant list, leading to the current situation." Yang Jian remained silent, gazing at the illusion in the sky with yearning in his eyes. The title of the world's #1 was certainly mesmerizing. Guan didn't join their discussion. He knew the level of participants in the grand tournament better than anyone. Currently, 5 loose immortals had gathered within Supreme Sect, the number of Nirvana realm cultivators reached 17, and there were over 100 Mahayana realm cultivators. If nothing unexpected happened, sects within the 3 dynasties couldn't hope to claim the first position in the grand tournament, or even make it into the top 20. The only hope lay with the supernatural cities Liya. Moreover, Guwen sensed a wandering immortal's presence, hidden in the mountains outside Supreme Sect, purpose unknown. This grand tournament was no longer just a test among the immortal cultivation world of the 3 dynasties. Guwen wasn't worried though. If Supreme Sect faced destruction, he would intervene. If they weren't in danger, he wouldn't act even if Supreme Sect lost. One must accept their inferiority. Until noon, the Luotian floating city battle array finally changed. The 72 large flags trembled, bursting with golden light, quickly forming a majestic palace, vast and transparent, allowing the outside world to see inside. Today, the first grand tournament of Supreme Sect will begin. I am LV Batian, the Supreme Sect leader, here to announce the rules of the grand tournament. It's all about winning. No killing. LV Batian's voice spread throughout Supreme Sect through the array light screens, silencing the hustle and bustle instantly. Guwen turned his head, asking an Xian to bring over a few more plates of pastries, and an Xian immediately obeyed. After a while, LV Batian finished explaining the rules of the grand tournament and began announcing the first match. The first match today will be between the Xianxia sect. Before LV Batian finished his words, a vast pressure engulfed Supreme Sect, interrupting him. Wait a moment. An aged voice echoed between heaven and earth, catching countless people off guard. Was someone going to interfere with the grand tournament? Yang Jian and the others beside Gu In also tensed up. Before the grand tournament begins, could Sword Venerable Fudao have a match with me? I am Bai Luo, the island master of Jinghai Bai Luo Island, known as Sage Bai Luo. The aged voice's words caused a tremendous uproar within Supreme Sect. Someone dared to challenge Sword Venerable Fudao. Yu Yingying frowned, saying, Sage Bai Luo? How is he involved? Did he align with someone? Xiaochuan couldn't help but ask, what realm is Sage Bai Luo in? Is he also an immortal? He is an immortal. As for his specific cultivation level, I'm not sure. He's beyond my reach. I just heard rumors, Yu Yingying replied. Meanwhile, a figure appeared within the Luotian floating city battle array, prompting countless people to look up. Through the array light screens, they saw the figure. Clad in a green robe, the figure stood tall, holding a long staff. His white hair was coiled under a jade crown, his face old and stern, with green flames burning atop the staff, resembling coiling dragons and serpents, emitting a mysterious aura. Sage Bai Luo. An overwhelming ancient aura descends upon him, causing every cultivator who witnessed his true form to feel an innate sense of awe, akin to mortals gazing at the vast sky, instinctively revering heaven. In the Outer Gate City, on the heavenly repair platform, Supreme Sect's high-ranking officials gathered. LV Batian, Ji Hantian, and Shen Quan were all present. Zuijin stood beside the heaven-cutting axe, frowning, his gaze towards Sage Bai Luo filled with hostility. For such a grand occasion, someone jumped out to challenge Sword Venerable Fudao, appearing to harbor ill intentions. However, he wasn't worried, even somewhat excited. Sword Venerable Fudao had not taken action for many years. Although his legend remained, overseas cultivators were unclear about his actual strength. LV Batian looked up at the Luotian floating city battle array, frowning and snorting coldly. As expected, someone is looking for trouble. I just don't know which force sent him. If Sword Venerable Fudao were defeated or refused to fight, Supreme Sect's control over the grand tournament would weaken sharply, potentially leading to the tournament's collapse and a crisis of annihilation for Supreme Sect. Gu Zong looked at LV Bin, whispering, Sect leader, this person isn't on the participant list. LV Batian nodded, replying calmly, then let's wait and see. It's time for the overseas cultivators to witness his power. Other high-ranking officials in Supreme Sect also showed anticipation. Sword Venerable Fudao was not only invincible in the hearts of Supreme Sect's disciples, but also to these high-ranking cultivators. He quelled internal strife, slew demon ancestors, killed immortals, vanquished evil demons, and more. Sword Venerable Fudao's might wasn't just talk. It was established through battles witnessed by Supreme Sect's disciples. In the Third Medicine Valley, just by listening to the disciples' discussions, Guwen realized he couldn't avoid taking action. So be it, it had been a long time since he showcased his swordsmanship. Guwen leaned against the stone table, swirling his wine cup with one hand, a slight smile playing at the corner of his mouth. Yang Jian, who had been observing his master, noticed the change in his master's expression and felt a shock in his heart. Could it be that Sword Venerable Fudao was his master? Having learned about Sword Venerable Fudao's legendary tales over the years, Yang Jian had often speculated about this. Could a sect hide two mysterious powerhouses surpassing all disciples? Sword Venerable Fudao, could it be that you dare not show yourself? Or do you look down upon someone from a remote island like me? Sage Bai Luo's voice rang out again, majestic and resounding. Hearing his mocking words, Supreme Sect's disciples were enraged, their anger surpassing their innate reverence. They began hoping that Sword Venerable Fudao would take action and teach this oceanic rogue a good lesson. Rumble. Suddenly, the sky's weather changed, clouds churned, white clouds turned black, and the world darkened, prompting countless people to look up. Inside the Luotian floating city battle array, Sage Bai Luo also looked up, seeing the rolling thunderclouds. He snorted, shaking his long staff, and his vast mana erupted, forming two azure dragons coiling within the array palace. Their bodies spanned 100 miles, enough to silence all beings. The two azure dragons slowly lifted their heads, roaring towards the sky, their dragon cries echoing endlessly. It is said that Sword Venerable Fudao's swordsmanship is unparalleled in the world. Today, let's see if you can break my array. Sage Bai Luo's voice echoed again. He waved his sleeve, sending countless magic artifacts into the air between the two azure dragons. Wind and fire swirled, entangling the dragons, causing them to grow rapidly, their heads piercing the top of the Luotian floating city battle array. At that moment, the thunderclouds suddenly parted, revealing a vast starry sea in the sky. All creatures' eyes reflected the resplendent starry sea, magnificent and fantastical. Chapter 242. The Sword Intent That Silences Heaven and Earth. The moment the vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword was unleashed, a majestic panorama of the starry sea unfolded above the sky, occupying the vision of all cultivators within the Supreme Sect. When the demon ancestor had previously attacked the northern territory, this sword array had also appeared, but only the frontline cultivators had seen it. Now, 90% of the cultivators within the Supreme Sect were seeing this sword array for the first time, and they were all astounded. Especially the disciples who had joined the Supreme Sect in the past few decades, they were utterly stupefied. A sword array capable of changing the heavens? How many years of cultivation would it take to reach such a level? Within the Luotian floating city battle array, Sage Bai Luo was locked in by the sword intent of the vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword. The moment the infinite starry sea appeared, he felt his mana solidify within him, a suppression so intense that it made his heart pound. Sage Bai Luo's face paled, regret creeping into his heart. He had thought that Sword Venerable Fudao was merely a wandering immortal. After all, Sword Venerable Fudao had previously only slain loose immortals. Despite knowing he might not be a match for Fudao, he believed he could at least gauge his opponent's strength. Now, feeling the sword intent of Fudao, he was reminded of the insignificance he felt 1,000,000 years ago. The gap between them was immense, at least a full major realm apart. He was a wandering immortal, so Sword Venerable Fudao must be. Heaven and earth, Sage Bai Luo muttered through gritted teeth. This time, he did not call out to heaven and earth, knowing he couldn't escape and had no choice but to fight to the bitter end. After a brief moment of silence, the Supreme Sect exploded in an uproar. Countless disciples of the Supreme Sect raised their arms and cheered, The high-level cultivators on the heavenly repair platform were equally excited, with Zhuo Yijian beside the heaven-cutting axe even kneeling down in a posture of devout worship. In the third medicine valley, over 900 disciples were similarly excited, shouting the name of Sword Venerable Fudao. Yu Yingying saw Sword Venerable Fudao in action for the first time, her small mouth agape with an expression of incredulity. Yang Jian was also frightened. What kind of sword array was this? Too exaggerated. He couldn't help but look at Guan, who also wore a shocked expression. Could Sword Venerable Fudao not be his master? Indeed, he had not sensed his master's mana dissipating. Pay close attention and see how much you can comprehend. Gu Yan's voice suddenly reached Yang Jian's ears, making him widen his eyes in astonishment. Was his master really Sword Venerable Fudao? This sword array, how did he accomplish it? He didn't see him make a move. Already having formed his core, Yang Jian felt he had a deep understanding of immortal cultivation, but today his master's technique overturned his comprehension. The vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword was high above, far from the third medicine valley. No one would have thought that Sword Venerable Fudao was hiding here. Yang Jian had thought that Sword Venerable Fudao was up in that vast starry sea, overlooking all beings. At that moment, the stars in the vast sea burst into light, and one by one, stars began to fall, more and more, densely packed, with a momentum that suggested the sky was collapsing, bringing the clamor of heaven and earth to a sudden halt. All beings looked up, their eyes wide and silent, as if witnessing an immortal phenomenon. Countless stars fell, bursting with sword chi, causing the trees of the mountains and rivers to sway violently, and dust to be swept away into the distance. Within the inner sect city, Liya stayed in a courtyard, looking up at the vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword, secretly alarmed. Could the Taitsong divine shocking sword reach such a degree? He turned his head to look at the divine exotic immortal spirit on his shoulder and asked, could divine exotic city withstand this sword with its power? Withstand? I almost got killed by him and you're asking me that? The divine exotic immortal spirit, feeling the sword intent from the sky, could confirm that Sword Venerable Fudao was indeed his master. He replied, not sure. His voice, full of childishness, contrasted sharply with his inner thoughts. Liya continued watching the light screen in the sky, wanting to see if Sage Bai Luo could withstand a single strike from Sword Venerable Fudao. Facing the endless stream of star sword energy, Sage Bai Luo shouted angrily, raising his staff as surging mana flowed into two azure dragons, which were wreathed in fierce flames and strong winds as they soared into the sky. The dragon's roar exploded. Countless people held their breath. Numerous streams of star sword energy fell, colliding with the dragons in midair. The gigantic azure dragons, ridge-like, were blocked abruptly. Starting from the dragon's head, they were shattered one after another, dissolving into azure winds sweeping across the world. In an instant, the two azure dragons were obliterated by the star sword energy. The power of the sword chi was unstoppable. Sage Bai Luo was illuminated by the sword light. His eyes widened, filled with fear. As the relentless star sword energy poured into the Luotian floating city battle array, a resplendent sword light erupted, causing heaven and earth to lose color, and countless beings to close their eyes. Blinded, only the sound of the wind could be heard. Several breaths later, cultivators gradually regained their vision. As more and more people opened their eyes, when they saw the scene within the light screen in the sky, their hearts raced. The Luotian floating city battle array remained, but its golden light at the base fluctuated violently, on the verge of dispersing, while Sage Bai Luo, kneeling inside, maintained a raised staff stance. The staff in his hands was only half remaining, smoldering, and he was covered in blood, his hair disheveled and utterly battered. Sage Bai Luo trembled all over, his bulging eyes bloodshot. The infinite starry panorama was slowly dissipating, signaling the end of the battle. Sage Bai Luo's heart filled with endless fear. Luckily, he had sought battle before the heavenly ranking tournament. Otherwise, at any other time, he might have perished. He couldn't even withstand a single move from Sword Venerable Fudao. Gritting his teeth, he wobbled to his feet, turning and flying towards the horizon, rapidly escaping the Luotian floating city battle array and disappearing to the edge of the sky. When he came, he was wildly boastful, but when he left, he was a defeated silence. Heaven and earth erupted in thunderous cheers. So strong. This is the strength of Sword Venerable Fudao? That sage by Luo was so arrogant before, who would have thought he'd be defeated so completely? If the sect leader hadn't set the rules, I bet he'd be dead. No kidding, once Sword Venerable Fudao makes a move, who can survive? It said the vice sect leader survived. Could he also be an immortal? Disciples of the Supreme Sect jeered at Sage by Luo and praised the overwhelming power of Sword Venerable Fudao. Even disciples from other sects were excited, though the great cultivators preparing for the heavenly ranking tournament grew tense. After this battle, they dared not act recklessly. The sword intent just now had snuffed out any fighting spirit. The morale of the Supreme Sect soared, the sect bustling as if celebrating the new year. Once the sword intent illusion above the sky completely disappeared, the Luotian floating city battle array also returned to its full state. The first match of the heavenly ranking tournament, Zhou Zhu of Heaven Sect versus Gu Xian of the Supreme Sect. LV Baishan's voice rang out again, this time brimming with dominance, as if he were Sword Venerable Fudao himself. Following his words, Zhou Zhu and Gu Xian flew into the array. Zhou Zhu's face was complicated, while Gu Xian looked spirited. They exchanged a few words. Judging by the mouth movements, it seemed Gu Xian was mocking the Zhou family's choice. In the third Medicine Valley, Guan stood up and said, "You all keep watching, I'll go fetch something from inside." And Xian and Xiaochuan nodded, while Yu Yingying remained immersed in the grandeur of Sword Venerable Fudao. Yang Jian watched Gu An's departing figure, his mind speculating. He didn't bother thinking about the fate of Sage by Luo. Instead, he began to recall the magnificence of the vast star suppressing heaven-boundless sword. He had thought that executing Sword Dao required a sword, but his master had neither drawn a sword nor moved an inch earlier, yet a sword array was created by mere thought? Unbelievable! Yang Jian felt a surge of hot blood in his chest. One day, he too would create such divine skills. Covered in blood, Sage by Luo swiftly flew off the continent, unable to calm his heart, fearing that Sword Venerable Fudao might pursue him. At the same time, his eyes were filled with rage. Damn the 7 Stars Spirit Realm for such inaccurate intelligence, no wonder they sent me as cannon fodder, despicable. Sage by Luo thought hatefully as he cursed the 7 Stars Spirit Realm. He took out an elixir and quickly swallowed it, speeding up his flight. As he passed an island, a hand suddenly landed on his shoulder, his face changed dramatically, and before he could react, an immense force he had never felt before pressed down, causing his body to plummet rapidly. Boom! Dust erupted from the forest in the depths of the island, causing the entire island to quake, with waves surging on the surrounding sea. The dust cleared, trees lay toppled, and a massive crater appeared. Under the sunlight, Sage by Luo knelt within the crater, a dark purple demonic hand on his shoulder. Looking back, it was Guan in the 9 extremes yin-yang body state. Sage by Luo was terrified, struggling to look back, his pupils dilated in shock. He couldn't stand up, nor could his primordial spirit emerge. At that moment, he was like a mere mortal, powerless to resist. His terror peaked, and despair cloaked his heart. Sword Venerable. Sage by Luo stuttered, but before he could finish, a terrifying divine sense surged into his mind, causing his eyes to lose their luster. The sea breeze blew, scattering the nearby dust and fluttering Sage by Luo's tattered robes. Guan used the soul-capturing skill to search Sage by Luo's memories. Not long after, he retracted his divine sense, his right palm igniting with 3 pure ones true fire, swiftly enveloping Sage by Luo. Even though Sage by Luo was just a tool, daring to provoke him meant death. If Guan had not been a match for Sage by Luo today, he would have been the one to die. In a saying from his past life, showing mercy to one's enemy is being cruel to oneself. Guan conveniently took Sage by Luo's storage ring, but his mind dwelled on the 7 Stars Spirit Realm. The force behind Sage Bai Luo's probing of Sword Venerable Fudao was indeed the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. However, in Sage Bai Luo's memories, there was no encounter with an actual cultivator of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm, only a ghost meeting him for the discussion. As long as Sage Bai Luo agreed, after the mission, the Seven Stars Spirit Realm would offer him an opportunity to listen to Dao lectures. What specific Dao, the memories didn't specify, but judging by Sage Bai Luo's excitement, it must be extraordinary. Could it be the lectures of the heaven and earth flying immortal? Could there be a carefree primordial immortal in the Seven Stars Spirit Realm? Guwen fell into contemplation. Regardless, after today, the Seven Stars Spirit Realm would be fully targeting Sword Venerable Fudao. It was necessary to probe the depths of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. If there was no carefree primordial immortal, it must be eradicated. Guwen's heart harbored killing intent. Without exterminating the Seven Stars Spirit Realm, he wouldn't feel at peace. Chapter 243 The Pressure from Sword Venerable Fudao in the Third Medicine Valley. Guwen went downstairs and returned to the stone table, where he watched the grand battle of the Tianbang tournament with the disciples. Killing Sage Bai Luo earned Guwen a lifespan of more than 7,000 years, which wasn't too bad. Sage Bai Luo was over 70,000 years old. He hadn't broken through a minor realm in over 10,000 years, so he had been searching for immortality opportunities for many years. The Seven Stars Spirit Realm targeted his needs to lure him into action. Guwen did not sympathize with Sage Bai Luo. People always have to take responsibility for their choices. What he was considering now was how to deal with the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. If the Seven Stars Spirit Realm hadn't plotted against him, he might not have confronted them. After all, delaying time was more beneficial to him. The first match of the Tianbang tournament had not yet ended. It was difficult for great cultivators of the same realm to determine a winner. Gu Xian and Zhou Zhu both had Mystic Heart Realm cultivation and evidently had a real grudge, using all their skills to the fullest, providing a feast for the spectators' eyes. It is said that the Zhou family has withdrawn all its disciples from the Supreme Sect, while the Gu family has done the opposite, fully supporting the Supreme Sect. Both sides are clashing, likely hiding a battle of pride. With Sword Venerable Fudao around, how could the Zhou family be so short-sighted? Who knows what kind of bewitching potion the Zongtian sect gave the Zhou family? It is said that until now, Sword Venerable Fudao has not attacked other sects, so those sects might hold onto illusions, thinking they have a chance to win him over. The combat between Mystic Heart Realm cultivators is already so fierce. I cannot imagine what the battle between Mahayana Realm cultivators would be like. The Supreme Sect was abuzz with discussions about the Tianbang combats, and the grudges between the Zhou family and the Supreme Sect spread throughout cities and towns. And Xian and Xiaochuan, who were beside Guwen, were discussing this matter. Yu Yingying from the Star Sea congregations ridiculed the Zhou family for their stupidity in believing the Zongtian sect's nonsense. In her view, the only reason Sword Venerable Fudao stayed at the Supreme Sect was due to a sense of affinity. The combined resources of the Three Morning Land couldn't possibly entice him. Yang Jian was also pondering what charm the Supreme Sect had to keep his master there. The first match of the Tianbang tournament concluded with Gu Xian's victory. As the host, the Supreme Sect gained considerable prestige. Even the overseas cultivators had to change their views on them. Though the foundations of the Supreme Sect were still weak, the sect's momentum was now unstoppable. The second match was between overseas cultivators. Guwen suspected that LV Baiyan manipulated it again, but it didn't matter much, as the Tianbang tournament was a knockout competition. When they lose, they are eliminated. For those aiming to win first place, they only cared about the final victory. Even if other cultivators had opinions about the rankings, they could not afford to lose face in front of the world. This match, a combat between Mahayana Realm cultivators, was magnificent, with spells and divine skills displayed in grandeur, causing the bottom of the Luotian floating city battle array to glow with a rainbow of light. The Mahayana Realm cultivators' battle lasted nearly 2 ancient hours before a winner emerged. Most spectators did not find it tedious and remained excited. The Tianbang tournament continued day and night. Even at night, there were combats. On the third day, Yi Lan and Zhen Qin came to find Gu and to watch the battle together. They had learned that there was a match involving Li Ya today, so they wanted to witness Li Ya's divine skills together. Yi Lan sat beside Guan, reminiscing about their days in the Mystic Valley. Recalling the past, neither she nor Zhen Qin could have imagined reaching today. Whether it was Yi Lan or Zhen Qin, they had thought reaching the Foundation establishment realm in their lifetime would be good enough. But now, with their opportunities, both had achieved divinity transformation. Considering only their age, they were undoubtedly rare geniuses, but they knew they were not true geniuses, so they remained humble and filled with reverence for immortal cultivation. Guan also fell into memories. Being able to help those around him live better lives gave him a great sense of accomplishment. Immortal cultivation should not be pursued without emotion, at least that was how he felt. As noon approached, it was finally Li Ya's turn. When the ancient sect called out Li Ya's name, a deafening cheer erupted throughout the supreme sect. The name of divine exotic city had long resounded across the world. Although Li Ya's talent wasn't as great as An Hao's, no one underestimated him because of his immortal path supreme treasure. Li Ya's return clearly meant to help the supreme sect contend for the first place in the Tianbang tournament. How could the disciples not cheer for him? Listening to the cheers from all around, a smile appeared on Guan's face. 100 years ago, before leaving the Mystic Valley, Li Ya had boasted that he would one day be famous worldwide. Today, he achieved his ambition. I hope 1,000 years from now, you will stand at an even higher place and have more people cheering for you, Guan thought as he looked at Li Ya in the sky display. People's characters and pursuits differ, leading them to choose different paths. Guan desired longevity, and before reaching the other shore of longevity, he couldn't comfortably enjoy fame. Li Ya was different. He yearned for freedom and fame, walking a path completely different from Guan's. Guan did not think his path was wrong. After all, not everyone had the ability to steal lifespans like him. If he didn't have that ability, Guan would also have to go on the run, risking everything for opportunities. Guan eagerly anticipated seeing how far Li Ya could go, whether he could transcend heavenly destiny and achieve nirvana. Li Ya's ultimate lifespan had not increased until now. Within the Luotian floating city battle array, Li Ya stood proudly with a divine exotic immortal spirit perched on his shoulder. The small, pitch-black creature bared its teeth and claws at Li Ya's opponent, looking very cute. Li Ya's opponent was an old man in a Daoist robe with third-layer nirvana realm cultivation. At this moment, facing Li Ya, the man's expression was solemn. He silently cursed the supreme sect for their shamelessness. Dealing with Li Ya, even if he won, it would not be a fair victory due to the significant gap in their cultivation levels. But if he lost, he would be utterly embarrassed. Why didn't they arrange a loose immortal opponent for Li Ya, who had an immortal path supreme treasure? Were they using him as a whetstone? The Taoist-robed old man took a deep breath, drew out his Dharma treasure, and prepared for battle. Li Ya said nothing and directly summoned the divine exotic city. The divine exotic city flew out of his body, rapidly expanding and transforming into a phantom that enveloped his figure, continuously occupying space inside the array. The appearance of the divine exotic city caused a clamor throughout the supreme sect. Most cultivators were seeing the divine exotic city for the first time, and they were very excited. With the divine exotic city visible, the battle's outcome was already predictable. Although it was a duel between Li Ya and the Taoist-robed old man, in reality, it was the divine exotic immortal spirit fighting on behalf of Li Ya. However, inside the divine exotic city, Li Ya would also bear some pressure. If he faced a wandering immortal in a prolonged battle, the divine exotic immortal spirit might be undefeated, but Li Ya could be shaken to death. Of course, there were no wandering immortals in the Tianbang tournament. The only wandering immortal had already been slain by Guan. The following battle had the spectators entirely appreciating the power of the divine exotic city. The endless swarms of divine soul demons surged out, their combined aura both awe-inspiring and terrifying. After Li Ya's victory, the atmosphere of the Tianbang tournament reached its peak. Guan saw Shenzhen still sketching the divine exotic city in front of his cave residence. A month passed quickly, and the participants in the Tianbang tournament had been reduced from 500 to 30. Some had a buy-in between, and the remaining 30, besides Liya, were at least in the Mahayana realm. Besides Liya, the most prominent were yellow-robed Immortal Lord and Yen Qitian of the Star Sea congregations. Yen Qitian was at the 9th layer of the loose Immortal realm. Only yellow-robed Immortal Lord could match his true cultivation level. Late at night, in an estate within the inner sect city, Yen Qitian was sitting cross-legged inside, cultivating energy to recover his mana. He wore a close-fitting black robe embroidered with dragon and tiger patterns, looking very imposing. Suddenly he heard footsteps and immediately opened his eyes to see a dark purple demonic shadow appear inside the room, startling him to his feet. "Who goes there?" Yen Qitian asked in a deep voice. The other party had managed to reach him without detection. The footsteps were clearly an intentional alert. Someone of such cultivation wouldn't make footsteps while walking. He carefully scrutinized the figure. Suddenly realizing something, his expression changed slightly, and he said, "Could it be that you are Sword Venerable Fudao?" Gu An's divine sense had already enveloped the estate. No one could spy on them. He spoke, "What is the Star Sea congregation's actual stance toward the 7 stars spirit realm?" Hearing this, Yen Qitian secretly relaxed as the other party had spoken, meaning they could talk. Having witnessed the vast star suppressing heaven-boundless sword, he didn't consider himself a match for Sword Venerable Fudao. Even wandering immortals couldn't take a single move from him. How could he resist? He didn't answer immediately, instead falling into deep thought. Guan cast a lifespan detection on him. Yen Qitian, Loose Immortal Realm 9th Layer 14590/25000/50,000. With a maximum lifespan of 50,000 years, he seemed to have the potential of a wandering immortal. Guan thought silently and wasn't in a hurry, waiting for Yen Qitian's response. In fact, he didn't need to ask. The Star Sea congregations had long been at war with the 7 stars spirit realm. He was merely following protocol, examining the attitude of the Star Sea congregation's cultivators toward the 7 stars spirit realm. Yen Qitian took a deep breath and said, "To be honest, our grudge with the 7 stars spirit realm has lasted for hundreds of thousands of years, reaching an irreconcilable stage. It won't be long before the Star Sea congregations launch a full-scale attack on the 7 stars spirit realm." He organized his thoughts about the happenings on this continent, feeling that Sword Venerable Fudao was against the 7 stars spirit realm. When Shen Tianyi of the Supreme Sect returned to the Star Sea congregations, he had spoken ill of the 7 stars spirit realm everywhere. Guan said, "After the Tianbang tournament ends, return to the Star Sea congregations and collect all information on the 7 stars spirit realm for me, especially regarding the cultivation realms of their cultivators. I only want the information. You won't be shortchanged. This is a personal deal between you and me, without involving the Star Sea congregations. You must not mention this to anyone." Hearing this, Yen Qitian was delighted. Was Sword Venerable Fudao going to deal with the 7 stars spirit realm? He quickly agreed, "No problem. There's no need for a deal, senior. I'll collect the information for you for free. The 7 stars spirit realm is not only your enemy but ours as well." But it's best not to inform the Star Sea congregations about this, at least not for now." "Understood, senior." Guan immediately disappeared from the spot. Yen Qitian breathed a sigh of relief, feeling immense pressure facing Sword Venerable Fudao. It felt like walking on a knife's edge. Could it be that Sage Bai Luo was invited by the 7 stars spirit realm? Yen Qitian pondered. He had heard of Sage Bai Luo's deeds. This person rarely provoked others. His challenge to Sword Venerable Fudao before the Tianbang tournament was clearly out of enmity. Chapter 244. Are you really in the energy cultivation realm? The struggle for the top 30 in the Heavenly List tournament became even more intense than before. At this stage, opponents of the same realm required a long time to secure victory, unless there was a significant disparity in their minor realms. Days passed by. The number of cultivators coming to the Supreme Sect to watch the tournament grew, and the entire Immortal cultivation world was discussing the Heavenly List tournament. Cultivators who displayed their talents in the tournament became famous worldwide and were revered by countless cultivators. After half a month, 15 cultivators remained in the Heavenly List tournament. Xiao Dai from the Supreme Sect advanced again without contest, successfully entering the top 15, causing much discussion among the cultivators. Everyone could see that the Supreme Sect was protecting Xiao Dai, but his Xiao family came from the Seven Stars spirit realm, which made many hesitate to openly question him. Li Ya also successfully entered the top 15, but his condition was worrisome. The high-intensity combat had continuously inflicted internal injuries on his physical body, and fighting between mortal spirits and immortal spirits also harmed the soul. Everything has its pros and cons. Guan didn't help Li Ya too much, as he needed Li Ya to respect the power far beyond his own. Nevertheless, the Supreme Sect had succeeded, as there were no cultivators from the Zhangtian sect in the top 15. Apart from the Supreme Sect, the best rank among the three dynasties sects was 29th, held by a Daoist lord of the Zhangtian sect. With 2 cultivators from the Supreme Sect in the top 15, it solidified their position in the immortal cultivation world of the 3 dynasties. Another 10 days passed, and only 8 cultivators remained vying for the top spot in the Heavenly List. The Supreme Sect held 2 places, represented by Li Ya and Xiao Dai, who advanced by default. In the battle of the top 8, Xiao Dai fell in the first match, stopping at the 8th position. Li Ya, relying on Divine Exotic City, advanced to the top 4 but ultimately stopped at 4th place. His chi was exhausted, and he fainted on the battlefield after just summoning the army of divine soul demons. The disciples of the Supreme Sect weren't disappointed but rather admired Li Ya. Li Ya, barely over 100 years old, shouldered the honor and mission of the entire sect. Reaching 4th place in the Heavenly List tournament was already commendable. In the previous Golden List tournament, Li Ya encountered an Hao early and didn't even make the top 500. This time, winning 3rd place, Guan thought he should have no regrets. As Guan had speculated, the final contenders for the top spot in the Heavenly List were the yellow-robed Immortal Lord and Yan Qitian. Their grand battle lasted 3 days and 3 nights, finally ending with Yan Qitian conceding defeat. The Supreme Sect remained bustling, and the tax revenue from various resource transactions delighted the sect leaders. The first Heavenly List tournament was highly successful. Other sects couldn't easily imitate such grandeur. Only until autumn did the Supreme Sect regain its peace. Before leaving, Li Ya visited Guan. They chatted for 2 ancient hours before Li Ya departed with grace. This time, he truly became a hero, gaining great renown. In the immortal cultivation world of the 3 dynasties, his fame overshadowed both the yellow-robed Immortal Lord and Yan Qitian, because he was one of their own and due to his age and legendary experiences. These matters had little to do with Guan. The Heavenly List tournament was just a minor episode for him. What truly pleased him was that the Supreme Sect had obtained the storage bag before the heaven-cutting axe. It was the highest-grade storage bag, containing an immense amount of spirit stones. After calculating, he felt that the Supreme Sect had not deceived him, showing great sincerity. The disappearance of that storage bag also thrilled the higher-ups of the Supreme Sect, as they believed it signaled an even closer relationship with Sword Venerable Fudao. The Supreme Sect acted swiftly, and the roster of the Heavenly List tournament quickly spread throughout the immortal cultivation world, distributed freely. Through the roster, they learned about the origins and formidable cultivation levels of the Heavenly List great cultivators. Unconsciously, the Supreme Sect's image became even grander in their minds. To summon so many immortals for combat, the Supreme Sect was undoubtedly the premier sect in the immortal cultivation world. In the Taizong dynasty, Zhangzhou, in the palace garden, Li Xiandao, clad in a dragon robe, sat at a table, perusing the Heavenly List and softly praised, "The Supreme Sect is ruthless with this move. With this roster, the world will believe the Supreme Sect has the power to summon immortals." Sitting across from him was a woman, Jiang Qiong. Behind Jiang Qiong stood 2 figures, two ghost cultivators from the 9 Nether 13 Evil, while behind Li Xiandao stood two great cultivators, one of whom was Yi Luyun, who had once cultivated in Tianya Valley. Jiang Qiong chuckled. Isn't your majesty the one who truly benefits? Prince Li Ya's name is renowned worldwide now. Who doesn't know he is your son? Speaking of Li Ya, her feelings were complex. She and the ghost mother of Ephemera had wandered divine exotic city, nearly dying, only for a younger generation to obtain it. How could they not feel envious and dejected? The most important factor was, when she served as the great elder of the Supreme Sect's outer sect, she learned about Gu En's connections. The person Gu En was closest to was Li Ya. This boy was truly fortunate to have such a master with great chi fortune. Moreover, with her around, Gu En could live peacefully even without leaving the valley. Thinking of this, Jiang Qiong's lips curled up. Li Xiandao set the heavenly list aside, looked at Jiang Qiong and said, I have thoroughly understood the strength of the Juhua sect. However, even if I unify the world, the Juhua sect would find it very difficult to overthrow the Supreme Sect's status. Jiang Qiong responded, there's no need to overthrow, just standing firm is enough. She had no intention of contending with the Supreme Sect. The true owner of the Juhua sect was Sword Venerable Fudao. Why compete? Besides, Gu En was still in the Supreme Sect. Li Xiandao nodded and said, Tianwei can no longer pose a threat. If you can help us conquer the great Jiang dynasty, I will definitely support the Juhua sect during my reign and shape it into a picture of the righteous path. Li Xiandao still held the Juhua sect in high regard. The strength of this sect was quite extraordinary. Jiang Qiong nodded and then continued to voice the needs of the Juhua sect. Li Xiandao patiently listened. The autumn breeze blew, scattering leaves that rose from the garden and drifted into the distance. Time flew by. A leaf fell, descending into Gu En's hand. Another autumn had come. Gu En stood by the wooden railing, enjoying the scenery of Medicine Valley. 2 years had passed since the end of the Heavenly List tournament, and Yan Qitian had yet to return, causing Gu En to wonder. Yang Jian suddenly approached, holding a long weapon, a 3-pointed 2-edged blade modeled after Yang Jian's weapon in investiture of the gods. Over 2 years, his aura had grown stronger. Even when hiding his cultivation, he appeared formidable and not to be trifled with. Master, a cultivator named Zhou Tongyu has come to the valley entrance, claiming to be your old acquaintance, Yang Jian said, glancing towards the distance. Zhou Tongyu was watching 2 servant disciples play Go, his curiosity piqued. Gu En turned and looked at Zhou Tongyu, reflecting. He had killed Zhou Yu. How could he feel indifferent meeting Zhou Tongyu again? Luckily, Zhou Tongyu was unaware of this matter. He stepped towards Zhou Tongyu, with Yang Jian following closely behind. Recalling their first encounter decades ago, Zhou Tongyu had visited the Supreme Sect, sweeping through all disciples under 100 years old. Noticing Gu En's disciple Yi Yan practicing spear techniques, he offered guidance, injuring Yi Yan severely. Gu En had to step in. They didn't know each other until they fought. Later, Gu En wrote Supreme Immortal Venerable, basing the secondary male character on Zhou Tongyu. He didn't expect Zhou Tongyu to remember him after so many years. Soon, Gu En reached Zhou Tongyu, smiled and said, Daoist friend Zhou, long time no see. Zhou Tongyu turned to look at him, smiling. As arrogant as ever, Zhou Tongji's unparalleled pride couldn't be hidden. Coming to the Supreme Sect, how could I not visit you? Your Medicine Valley's scale truly impresses me. Remarkable, Zhou Tongyu laughed. The two began exchanging pleasantries. Zhou Tongyu came as a representative of the Jueshan sect for an exchange. He wasn't alone. A group of talented disciples accompanied him, though he acted independently. The reason he thought of Gu En was due to an encounter with Gu En's disciple Yi Yan years ago. Your disciple's cultivation level may not be high, but his comprehension of spear techniques is remarkable. He has already grasped spear intent, Zhou Tongyu praised Yi Yan. Yang Jian was curious. Was Yi Yan his senior brother? As he listened, he realized Yi Yan was merely a servant disciple from the valley and had not received genuine guidance from his master. He was a senior brother in name but not the one his master always mentioned. The master was truly impressive, nurturing a genius with just a few tips. In the end, Zhou Tangjia's gaze fixed on Guwen, eyes burning. It's been years, shall we spar again? I will still suppress my cultivation to match yours, how about it? Among his peers, Zhou Tongyu had only lost to two people, LV Xian and Guwen, the latter due to suppressed cultivation. Guwen feigned hesitation. Suppressed cultivation? Then why not let me fight on behalf of my master? Yang Jian suddenly spoke up. Zhou Tongyu frowned, looking at Yang Jian. Just as he was about to refuse, his heart inexplicably trembled meeting Yang Jian's gaze. For some reason, he thought of LV Xian, that peerless genius of the past. Well, let's see your power then, and whether you can match your master. Zhou Tongyu laughed, his eyes turning aggressive. The two disciples playing Go looked up in anticipation. Guwen said, let's find an empty place. He patted the heads of the two disciples, refocusing their attention on the game. Zhou Tongyu and Yang Jian followed Guwen walking along. Zhou Tongyu inquired about Yang Jian like an elder. Knowing Yang Jian was selected as a servant disciple, he felt relieved. He truly feared this one was a genius Guwen recruited from a noble family. Ordinary servant disciples couldn't be geniuses, as the spirit root testing in great sects was reliable. 30 minutes later, outside Medicine Valley in a forest. Zhou Tongyu clutched his chest, his face full of shock, staring at Yang Jian, who remained in a kicking stance as if looking at a monster. Are you really in the energy cultivation realm? Zhou Tongyu couldn't help but ask. Yang Jian retracted his leg and said, we both didn't use spiritual power, so what realm doesn't matter, does it? Zhou Tongyu nearly spat blood at his words. He felt his chest bones were about to break. How could this guy's qi be so strong? Zhou Tongyu himself was a physical cultivator and had even cultivated the evil-suppressing golden body. Chapter 245. Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal? Is it very powerful? Again. Zhou Tongyu gritted his teeth. He couldn't believe it. He couldn't be defeated by a mere servant disciple. It was said that the Supreme Sect's Qi fortune had been soaring in recent years. He didn't believe Qi fortune could defy the heavens to such an extent that even a randomly picked servant disciple could defeat him. What a joke! He was the #1 genius of the Zhou family. Yang Jian waved at him, and this gesture made him even angrier. The two quickly tangled again. Guwen could see that Zhou Tangjia's physique was special, but unfortunately he met Yang Jian. Yang Jian's physique was comparable to an ancient treasure body. According to the Immortal seeking Daoist, as long as an ancient treasure body grew smoothly, it would undoubtedly become an immortal king of an era. No matter how strong Zhou Tangjia's aptitude was, it was still below the immortal path. 200 years ago, there were no legends of the Mahayana realm on this continent, and even the mystic heart realm was known to only a few cultivators. Zhou Tangjia's evil-suppressing golden body, compared to Yang Jian's physique, was as different as heaven and earth and posed no threat. Their bodies clashed, fists and kicks met, and their attacks were fierce and as fast as a gale. The blood prison great saint was attracted over. He stood at the edge of the forest and slowly approached. In the end, Zhou Tongyu, in his desperation, accidentally used spiritual power, forcing Yang Jian back. Yang Jian steadied himself, shook his right hand, and frowned. Facing his gaze, Zhou Tangjia's face turned red instantly, and he said, I admit defeat. Upon hearing this, Yang Jian's frown immediately relaxed. This was his first sparring match since following Guwen in Immortal cultivation. He cared deeply about the outcome. If he lost, wouldn't he be letting his master down? Guwen laughed and said, this kid has brute strength. How can a cultivator rely solely on qi? It was an advantage for him. Winning or losing doesn't matter. Jianer quickly thanked the senior for his guidance. Yang Jian quickly cupped his hands in salute, sincerely expressing his thanks. The more sincere he was, the worse Zhou Tangjia's expression became. Zhou Tongyu noticed a sneaky demon bull wandering in the distance and couldn't help but ask, is that bull yours? Guwen thought, you don't want to spar with the bull, do you? Yes, how about it? What do you think of its appearance? Guwen asked with a proud tone, intending to skip over the sparring incident and save Zhou Tongyu some face. Zhou Tongyu pouted and said, "It looks decent, but its shape is a bit awkward." In the distance, the blood prison great saint widened his eyes. Just as he was about to curse, he was stopped by Guwen's glare and had to give up. Then, Guwen invited Zhou Tongyu to enter the valley for a chat, but he refused, saying he had other matters and had to leave after the spar. Guwen didn't insist, watching him leave. Yang Jian scratched his head and asked, "Master, did I offend him?" Guwen looked at Zhou Tongji's back and said, "It's all right. Letting him know early that there's always someone better is not a bad thing." Guwen still had a good impression of Zhou Tongyu. This guy's actions may be harsh, but his ability to guide those casual cultivators shows a kind heart. The conflict with the Zhou family was hidden and shouldn't affect his relationship with Zhou Tongyu. Zhou Tongji's visit to the Supreme Sect this time was likely an attempt by the Zhou family to mend their relationship with the sect. There was no deep hatred between them. Perhaps they could let things go in the future. "Master, do you think my battle just now had any problems?" Yang Jian humbly asked for advice. Guwen didn't hold back and began to critique. The blood prison great saint approached, looking pitifully at Guwen. Only after Guwen patted his ox head did his mood improve. "He's just a mortal, what are you fussing about?" Guwen's words made the blood prison great saint smile widely. The Juishan sect was a righteous path sect within the Taizong dynasty. During the previous demon disaster, they had also given their all, maintaining a good relationship with the Supreme Sect. This time, the genius disciples of the Juishan sect came to spar with those of the Supreme Sect, causing quite a stir. Pan N's Supreme Immortal Venerable was still very famous within the Supreme Sect. It was no secret that Zhou Tongyu in the book was the same Zhou Tongyu from the Juishan sect, so many people paid attention to his performance. Zhou Tongyu swept through the Supreme Sect's disciples, showcasing the brilliance of decades past until he met Wu Ju. Without suppressing their cultivation levels, relying on their skills alone, Zhou Tongyu couldn't defeat Wu Ju, solidifying Wu Ju's reputation as a genius. Wu Ju was a genius nurtured by the Supreme Sect after and Hao, with extremely fast cultivation speed. He had once been a golden list genius. Now, having defeated Zhou Tongyu, he dispelled any remaining doubts and made the Supreme Sect's disciples more hopeful for him. On the night of the full moon, LV Batian and Guwen were drinking together in a room. Wu Ju sees you as his only brother, Leah considers you the most important person, Zhang Buku regards you as his only elder, and in-house sister apprentices under you. Ji Xiaoyu from the Ji family grew up with you. Even Gu Yu, the son of the Gu Zong, has a good relationship with you. You little brat, and you still say you don't have the ambition to be the next sect leader? LV Batian glared as he spoke. He truly admired Guwen, who could always make friends with geniuses and form excellent relationships. Of course, he could understand why. Guwen's genuine nature allowed him to form such good connections. Because of this, he admired Guwen, as it wasn't easy to treat everyone genuinely. People tend to favor the promising. As for him, even if he often reminded himself to treat all disciples equally, he wouldn't give a second glance to an average disciple passing by. Guwen laughed and said, "Heaven has been kind to me. I honestly don't want to be the sect leader. Nowadays, the Supreme Sect is full of geniuses. Do we still lack a leader? No matter how many geniuses, we can't choose recklessly. The sect leader must command respect. Can my current cultivation level command respect? Before I die, I'll transfer my cultivation to you. Then you'll directly achieve the mystic heart realm. By the time you're dying, I'll have reincarnated 10 times already. Oh, so you are retreating to advance, wanting me to transfer my cultivation to you sooner?" The two began to banter, and Guwen wasn't interested in his cultivation. "Would I, a carefree primordial immortal, need your unification realm cultivation level? Just one breath of spiritual energy is stronger than all your lives' cultivation." That night, after LV Batian left, Guwen quietly departed as well. Yan Qitian had finally arrived. Underneath the night sky, Yan Qitian rode a cloud, gliding past the full moon, looking like an immortal. He was pondering how to face Sword Venerable Fudao. Though he was working for him, the thought of facing the Sword Venerable brought him immense pressure. At that moment, a hand suddenly pressed on Yan Qixin's shoulder, causing his heart to stop. With a roar, the cloud beneath his feet dispersed, and he fell into the forest below. When his feet touched the ground, his heart was in his throat. His mana was surprisingly restrained, leaving him unable to move. What terrifying suppression! For the first time, he felt such pressure, and fear began to grow in his heart. Fortunately, the hand on his shoulder released him, and he quickly turned to see Sword Venerable Fudao, immediately bowing in respect. "Senior, wasn't that a bit too?" Yan Qixin couldn't help but say, trying to calm himself. He suddenly recalled a recent book circulating in the Star Sea congregations about Sword Venerable Fudao. It mentioned that the Sword Venerable would press on someone's shoulder before killing them. He thought it was just Xian Tiany's whimsicality, but it turned out to be true. Wait, could Sword Venerable Fudao be planning to kill him? Dispose of him after use? Yan Qixin's expression changed drastically as he trembled, completely losing the demeanor of a loose immortal and second rank on the heavenly list. As the saying goes, the higher you stand, the more you fear. Being suppressed so easily by Sword Venerable Fudao, he shuddered at the thought of Fudao's unimaginable cultivation level. How could he not be terrified? Guan spoke, "Where is it?" Yan Qixin hurriedly took out a scroll from his storage ring, offering it with both hands, nervously replying, "This is collected through the power of my family and master." Though not entirely clear, it should give a general understanding of the Seven Stars' spirit realm strength. Guan made a gesture, and the scroll entered his hand. His divine sense penetrated it, dispelling all the restrictions within. Yan Qixin nervously stood aside, fearing that Sword Venerable Fudao might suddenly decide to kill him. He didn't dare to flee, as it would be useless. It was better to try to make a good impression. After a while, Guan looked at him and said, "You did well. Our transaction hasn't been leaked, right?" Yan Qixin quickly replied, "Only my master knows. I mentioned a mysterious senior with a grudge against the Seven Stars spirit realm wanting information. My master didn't press further. Except for me, no one knows it's you." Guan nodded. Yan Qixin added, "Senior, dealing with the Seven Stars spirit realm can't be done rashly. If you are willing, why not join forces with our Star Sea congregations? From the information I've gathered, the cave master of One Star Cave is a heaven and earth flying immortal who achieved it 50,000 years ago. Even our sect hierarch isn't confident in defeating him." Heaven and earth flying immortal, are they strong? Guan's question left Yan Qixin speechless. Are they strong? Yan Qixin opened his mouth, suddenly realizing something. Could it be that the other party wasn't unaware of the heaven and earth flying immortal realm but simply didn't fear any heaven and earth flying immortal? His gaze changed instantly. Looking at Guan, he felt an urge to kneel on the spot. "You did well. Tonight's conversation must not be mentioned to anyone. If you dare to speak of it, no matter where you hide, I will find you, and no one can stop me." Guan suddenly spoke, scaring Yan Qixin, who immediately bent over and promised. After he finished speaking, Guan stepped up to him and placed 2 fingers on his forehead, making him stiffen and his eyes go vacant. Under the moonlit night, in a courtyard, Ji Xiaoyu was meditating in a pavilion, continuously casting spells, and cultivating some sort of cultivation technique. A figure walked in from the yard, a middle-aged man in a large robe with a stern countenance. He stopped before the pavilion, gazing at Ji Xiaoyu and sighing, "Xiaoyu, have you still not made up your mind?" Ji Xiaoyu did not respond. The primordial Daoist talisman truly is extraordinary, but our Ji family can't protect it. Moreover, now that the Ji family has allied with the Seven Stars spirit realm, we can only choose to trust them, the middle-aged man said earnestly. Ji Xiaoyu opened her eyes and looked at him calmly, her gaze making him feel uneasy. Chapter 246 Heavenly Eye Prophecy. Ji Qianquan felt uneasy under Ji Xiaoyu's gaze. Ever since a certain point, he began to feel like he couldn't see through his own daughter. Despite his higher cultivation level, he always felt that his daughter was dangerous. He even suspected that she had been possessed, but after examining her, there were no signs of possession. Ji Xiaoyu slowly spoke. "Father, do you know the origin of the primordial Daoist talisman?" Ji Qianquan frowned and said, "The primordial Daoist talisman is a legacy left by ancient immortals. They choose their master through reincarnation. Those who possess the primordial Daoist talisman have extraordinary talent. With every major breakthrough, they will receive a legacy. Xiaoyu, it was I who introduced you to the primordial Daoist talisman back then. I naturally understand its importance. However, the primordial Daoist talisman is not unique in this world. The development of the Ji family has already hit a bottleneck. We need a force like the Seven Stars Spirit Realm to open a path overseas. Sacrificing for the family will not treat you unfairly." Ji Xiaoyu stood up and looked at Ji Qianquan from within the pavilion. The moonlit night was like water, and the cold wind was bleak. Ji Qianquan felt irritated by Ji Xiaoyu's gaze. Just as he was about to speak, he heard Ji Xiaoyu say, "The primordial Daoist talisman in my body gave me a heavenly eye. Do you know what my heavenly eye sees?" Looking at Ji Xiaoyu's extremely cold face, Ji Qianquan felt inexplicably uneasy. He pressed on, "What did you see?" Ji Xiaoyu stepped forward, circled around the stone table, and walked outside the pavilion. As she moved closer to Ji Qianquan, her momentum surged with each step. Her expression was as cold as an immortal in the skies, and her eyes were fixed on Ji Qianquan. "I saw the Seven Stars Spirit Realm shatter, with countless corpses lying around, blood flowing like a river. I saw the Ji family reaching its end, with the Qilin wailing in sorrow. I saw you, father, your head separated from your body, dying with unfulfilled wishes." Ji Xiaoyu's voice was not loud, nor did her tone drop, but every word shook Ji Qianquan to his core. The primordial Daoist talisman, a result of ancient immortals' cultivation, contained an unknown power. The Ji family was also unaware of the power held by Ji Xiaoyu's primordial Daoist talisman. Ji Xiaoyu stopped on the steps and looked at Ji Qianquan. "If the Ji family only wanted me to offer the primordial Daoist talisman, I might not refuse. But you all want me dead. How do you expect me to agree?" Ji Qianquan remained silent. He wanted to say something, but looking into Ji Xiaoyu's eyes, he felt that any words would be futile. "No matter how you ramble, this matter is settled. You do not have much time left." Ji Qianquan left, flicking his sleeves. Watching his back, Ji Xiaoyu did not get angry. Instead, a look of disdain appeared on her face. Yan Qitian opened his eyes and found himself still in the woods. The figure of Sword Venerable Fudao was nowhere to be seen. He recalled the inherited memories in his mind, his expression complex. Breaking path divine light. He hadn't expected Sword Venerable Fudao to bestow an inheritance of divine skills upon him. Although he had previously stated he needed no reward, for Sword Venerable Fudao to do this demonstrated a conduct that he greatly respected. At the same time, he understood that if he publicized this matter, Sword Venerable Fudao would not let him off lightly. Sword Venerable Fudao was a cultivator who clearly distinguished between gratitude and grievances, always keeping his promises. He sensed that the breaking path divine light was highly unusual. It was undoubtedly a rare and great opportunity. After much contemplation, he decided to visit the Supreme Sect. After all, Sword Venerable Fudao was in seclusion within the Supreme Sect. Building a good relationship with the Supreme Sect was also a way to show his respect to Sword Venerable Fudao. Moreover, he felt this might be an opportunity for him. Perhaps, with the help of the Supreme Sect, his path of immortal cultivation could proceed more smoothly. With that thought, he flew toward the Supreme Sect. On the other side, in the Third Medicine Valley, Guan was leading the disciples in exercises. The sight of over 900 disciples practicing together was quite impressive. Even Yang Jian was practicing earnestly. The autumn air was crisp and the spiritual energy was abundant. Guan was in a great mood, a smile beaming on his face. Seeing his sunny disposition, the disciples' spirits also lifted. After the exercises, Guwen didn't leave but instead dragged Xiaochuan to play chess. The other disciples wanted to watch, but he refused. Once seated, Xiaochuan eagerly said, "Senior brother, I won't go easy on you. Recently, I've had 17 consecutive wins in chess." He arranged the black and white pieces on the board and made the first move. Guwen followed with a move of his own and asked with a smile, "How is your practice going recently? Have you been taking the elixirs I gave you on time?" Xiaochuan was only 3 years younger than him and was nearing his lifespan limit. Guwen planned to help him release his cultivation level in the next 2 years. Xiaochuan, unlike Liya or Zhenqin, who ventured into the immortal cultivation world, had little ambition and only helped Guwen manage medicinal herbs. Yet in Guwen's heart, he held considerable significance. In this lifetime, the one who had accompanied him the longest was Xiaochuan. Their relationship had long since become like family. Xiaochuan casually replied, "It's all right, I've been taking all the elixirs." His focus was on winning the chess game to impress his senior brother. Each time he moved, Guwen would make his move quickly, initially not paying much attention. But as time went on, Guwen's speed in playing brought him immense pressure. What made it worse was that Guwen kept expressing concern for him, forcing him to respond, which left him increasingly agitated and frustrated. Of course, Guwen noticed Xiaochuan's frustration. It was intentional on his part. Watching Xiaochuan become frazzled, Guwen found it highly amusing. Suddenly, Guwen asked, "Xiaochuan, would you like to leave the mountain to marry and have children?" Startled by this, Xiaochuan immediately looked up in panic. "Senior brother, do you want to get rid of me?" Guwen rolled his eyes at him and said, "Experiencing various pleasures in life is a must. I'm just suggesting you marry and have children. If you want to come back later, you're welcome anytime. Of course, if you don't like women, that's fine too." Xiaochuan was already 138 years old and had never experienced romantic relationships before. As his senior brother, Guwen felt it was his duty to help him. Although Guwen himself had not experienced romantic relationships in this lifetime, he had tasted it in his previous one, so it wasn't intriguing for him. But for Xiaochuan, it was different. Xiaochuan didn't even read Green Hero Travelogue, so Guwen was somewhat worried about him. Xiaochuan's face turned crimson. "Isn't this inappropriate?" "What's inappropriate about it? When the time comes, they'll give you money. You can buy a house deed when you leave the mountain, and matchmakers will naturally come knocking. Experiencing a couple of decades in a normal life might not be a bad thing," Guwen said softly, placing another chess piece. This move made Xiaochuan's face turn green. Shameless. Playing chess was just playing chess. What was with these underhanded tactics? Xiaochuan's thoughts were disrupted, but he was moved by Guwen's words. In fact, Guwen had a deeper consideration for suggesting he leave the mountain, which was to see if experiencing worldly life could lead Xiaochuan to path enlightenment. Path enlightenment was very mysterious. Even a carefree primordial immortal couldn't force someone to achieve it at will. The reason path enlightenment could alter one's lifespan was because it gained the essence of heaven and earth. Human life was inherently determined by heavenly destiny. Thus, with Guwen's relentless persuasion, Xiaochuan was defeated utterly in chess, ending in frustration. Guwen stood up and said with a smile, "Think it over carefully. Whenever you make up your mind, come to me. Don't worry, we will always be brothers. As long as I'm here, I'll protect you for life." Hearing these words, Xiaochuan's spirits lifted. He turned to look, and Guwen had already walked away. For some reason, he felt that his senior brother's arrangement was like preparing for his own impending end. It seemed his senior brother still cared about him a lot. A smile appeared on Xiaochuan's face. Guwen also smiled, secretly thinking, "This little one still wants to beat me? Come back after practicing for another 800 years. That day, Yan Qitian visited the Supreme Sect, causing a stir among its top leaders. LV Baiyan personally received him, and they had extensive discussions. 3 days later, Yan Qitian left. The Supreme Sect announced that Yan Qitian, second on the heavenly rankings, had become a guest elder of the Supreme Sect. This news excited everyone in the Supreme Sect. It said that Yan Qitian left behind many cultivation techniques and spells, promising that should the supreme sect face difficulties, they could summon him with a magic artifact. To show their gratitude, the supreme sect began to publicize Yan Qitian's deeds, aiming to make him the top cultivator of the supreme sect. Yan Qitian's involvement shook the immortal cultivation world, putting pressure on various sects and congregations to engage in diplomacy with the supreme sect. However, the Zongtian sect remained silent, with low morale. Autumn passed into winter, the snow blanketing everything. Mystic Valley. Guan stood by the window, appreciating the snowy view. His divine sense enveloped the continent. Dealing with the Seven Stars spirit realm couldn't be done forcefully, mainly because the realm was too vast. With 5 other caves overseas, he wanted to capture them all, but it was challenging. It was easy to alert other overseas factions or great cultivators. So he planned to first eliminate the 6 Stars Cave and 7 Stars Cave on the continent. Guan could detect their minor heaven and earth, waiting for a disturbance in the 7 Stars spirit realm before making his move. Since the appearance of Divine Exotic City, many oceanic cultivators had been traveling on the continent, including the Star Sea congregations, frequently clashing with the 7 Stars spirit realm. Guan intended to strike the 7 Stars spirit realm during a major upheaval caused by the Star Sea congregations, eradicating their key cultivators, ending the realm's presence on the continent. By then, the Star Sea congregations would likely advance north, pressuring the 7 Stars spirit realm to focus away from the continent. Today, Guan suddenly sensed a peculiar power brewing in the 7 Stars spirit realm, piquing his curiosity. He saw the essence of that power, further heightening his anticipation for the upcoming developments. Indeed, this world is full of hidden talents, so many secret forces, Guan thought to himself as he turned and sat back at his desk, picking up the supreme secret records. Reading many books eventually reveals what is classic. Classics are those that never grow tiresome. He turned page after page, like witnessing the rings of a tree. 3 years quickly passed by. Guan's lifespan once again surpassed tens of millions of years. On this day, he closed the supreme secret records, stored it in his storage bag, then stood up and walked out of the attic. The summer sun was scorching, insects incessantly buzzing, the sunlight shining on Guan, reminding him of the scene when he first entered Mystic Valley at 15. He fixed his gaze, seeing Lu Jiujia instructing newly arrived servant disciples. In Guan's eyes, Lu Jiujia's back gradually merged with Zhang Chunkius. 100 years had passed, and though things had changed, some marks remained. Guan smiled and began contemplating which magic artifact to use in the upcoming war. Simply crushing with mana seemed too dull. Chapter 247. Reincarnation does not permit you either. Thinking it over, Guan decided to use the Heavenly Residence Sword. The Heavenly Residence Sword was a divine sword gifted to him by Liya, one of the 3 emperor swords of the Taizong dynasty. Although the emperor sword was not very useful to him now, the elegant form of the Heavenly Residence Sword made it worth using. Guan also thought of Lu Lingjun, who wielded 2 swords in battle, and felt that he could try using a 2-handed sword as well. He had no pressure dealing with the 6 Stars Cave and 7 Stars Cave of the 7 Stars Spirit Realm. Guan went downstairs and made his way to Lu Jiujia, who quickly saluted him and introduced 2 new disciples. The 2 servant disciples were very nervous in front of Guan, not like Liya and Meng Lang, who were impatient with Cheng Xiandan and Zhang Chuanxiu back in the day. The current status of the supreme sect in the Taizong dynasty was far beyond what it was 100 years ago, now being the top sect in the continent's immortal cultivation world, second only to the legendary Holy Land. Guan did not adhere strictly to the rules but instead gently encouraged the 2 new disciples, leaving them pleasantly surprised. After he left, the 2 disciples were filled with anticipation for their upcoming life in the Mystic Valley. Guan did not head to the 3rd Medicine Valley but walked towards the mountains and forests outside the valley. He appreciated the scenery along the way and realized it had been many years since he last experienced the surroundings of the Mystic Valley on foot. Back then, he raced around the mountains with Xiaochuan, and life was carefree. To feel such nostalgia after just over 100 years, Imagine what it will be like in 10,000 years. Guwen suddenly thought, then adjusted his emotions, preparing to invade the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. Today, the Seven Stars Spirit Realm was about to undergo a significant change, presenting the perfect opportunity for him. Sunlight poured into the courtyard where Ji Qianquan and numerous members of the Ji family stood, chatting and laughing. A number of cultivators floated in the distant sky, each like an immortal, showcasing their unique styles. This Ji mansion, located atop a solitary mountain, covered an area of over 10 miles. Thick fog swirled below the mountain, resembling a vast ocean, with peaks emerging from the sea of clouds, akin to immortal Daoist practice grounds. The sea of clouds stretched endlessly, as if this place truly was above the 9 heavens, with the sun directly overhead. Ji Hantian leaned against the courtyard door with his arms crossed in front of his chest and eyes closed. Judging by his furrowed brows, his mood was not good. Ji Qianquan came to Ji Hantian's side, smiling, "Grandpa, the auspicious hour is near. Why don't you go outside to greet the Luo family?" Ji Hantian opened his eyes, snorted coldly, and left with a flick of his sleeve. Ji Qianquan did not get angry. He knew Ji Hantian had objections regarding the Seven Stars Spirit Realm, but since it concerned the family's prosperity, Ji Hantian would choose to endure. Now that the Supreme Sect was thriving, the Ji family had stopped insisting on Ji Hantian leaving the sect. In fact, they started to support him again, seeing another avenue as beneficial. Ji Qianquan turned back to see Ji Xiaoyu's door adorned with joyous decorations. The sight eased his uneasy heart slightly. Every time he thought of Ji Xiaoyu's words that night, he felt restless and upset. Dong! The loud sound of a gong echoed through the heavens and the earth. A beam of golden light swept in from the horizon, rapidly landing in front of the Ji mansion's gate. The sounds of hooves and roars came from afar as 9 white horses drew a golden carriage along the golden path. 2 female cultivators, resembling fairies, leaned out of the carriage windows, holding baskets of flowers, and scattered petals continuously. The petals drifted with the wind, quickly dissipating into magpies that circled in the sky. The cultivators from nearby mountains flew out of their mansions, and some jumped out of the fog below, all wanting to watch the excitement. What a grand spectacle! As expected of the Luo family. I heard Luo Yetian has broken through to the Mahayana realm. Is it true? It should be true. Entering the Mahayana realm after just over 500 years is indeed terrifying talent. Ji Xiaoyu of the Ji family is not simple either. It's said she was born with a primordial Daoist talisman and great fortunes. She is a perfect match for Luo Yetian. With the Ji family allied with the Luo family, they are set to rise. If they produce an immortal, it would be even more remarkable. They might even cultivate in the 5 Stars Cave in the future. Each mountain belonged to a different family, but these families were at the lower end of the 7 Stars Spirit Realm, incomparable to the Luo family, hence their envy of the Ji family's fortune. At the end of the Golden Path, numerous cultivators rode on magic artifacts, flying in a grand procession that stirred the clouds. They swiftly landed by the Golden Path, stretching all the way to the Ji mansion's gate. Glancing around, there were at least 1,000 cultivators, all with imposing auras and dressed in golden robes. The 9-horse-drawn carriage halted at the gate. The curtain opened, and an imposing man in a red robe stepped out. He was tall and handsome, with long hair tied in a lotus jade crown, resembling a star lord descended from the heavens. His eyes shone brightly as if they contained the universe. Seeing him disembark, the Ji family cultivators hurriedly stepped forward to greet him. Luo Yetian smiled and asked, "Sister Yu, are you ready?" He had been busy in seclusion, only meeting Ji Xiaoyu once. Sensing the innate aura of the primordial Daoist talisman within her and admiring her exceptional beauty, he had his family propose the marriage. He barely needed to lift a finger, just one word from him was enough. And as he expected, the Ji family agreed without hesitation. He chose this year precisely because he had just reached the Mahayana realm. In previous years, his mind was solely focused on advancing to the Mahayana realm, and Ji Xiaoyu was merely a thought, not worth occupying his entire mind. An elder of the Ji family smiled and said, "She is ready and can depart anytime." Luo Yetian nodded. "Our Luo family has already invited all the major families from the 6 Stars Cave and the 7 Stars Cave, and even some seniors from the 5 Stars Cave to attend. This wedding will surely be grand. Rest assured, we are one family now." He spoke appropriately without arrogance, making the Ji family cultivators smile and thank him repeatedly. He looked up at the Ji mansion, anticipation showing in his eyes. He could already sense the aura of the primordial Daoist talisman. Meanwhile, in the courtyard where Ji Xiaoyu resided, Ji Qianquan urged her from outside the door. "The auspicious hour has arrived. Don't keep the Luo family waiting," Ji Qianquan said, knocking on the door. The door opened at that moment. Ji Xiaoyu, clad in a phoenix crown and cloud robe, stepped out accompanied by 2 female cultivators. The veil covered her face, revealing only a snow-white chin, and her hands were clasped before her stomach, comporting herself with grace. Seeing she was already in her wedding attire, Ji Qianquan heaved a sigh of relief and smiled. "Xiaoyu, what you worry about might not happen. There may be a turnaround. The Luo family has even invited great cultivators from the 5 Stars Cave. They might be able to help you," Ji Qianquan said softly. Ji Xiaoyu passed by him, stopping suddenly. "Crossing this door, our father-daughter bond ends." Ji Qianquan frowned. "What nonsense are you talking about? I will always be your father, and the Ji family will always be your home." Ji Xiaoyu said nothing more, stepping forward. Accompanied by the 2 female disciples of the Ji family, she left the courtyard. Ji Qianquan watched her back and exhaled deeply. Over the past 3 years, he had feared any mishap in this marriage, so he had been guarding Ji Xiaoyu closely. He quickly followed, not resting assured until he delivered Ji Xiaoyu to the Luo family himself. Outside the mansion gate, a disciple hurriedly came out to inform the Ji family's higher-ups that Ji Xiaoyu was coming, causing smiles to bloom on everyone's faces. They had long heard of Ji Xiaoyu's dissatisfaction, but such was the fate of noble families, where marriages served the family's interests. During the wait, a cultivator of the Ji family asked Luo Yetian about the rumored world-destroying sea tide's validity. Luo Yetian pondered and said, "I heard it upon emerging from seclusion as well. Such rumors have spread across the seas, but the truth is uncertain. At least 100 years from now, it seems unlikely. Beyond that, no one can say." The surrounding cultivators began to murmur, discussing the matter. After a while, many cultivators from the Ji family walked out of the gate, with Ji Xiaoyu in the center, surrounded like the moon among stars. Upon seeing her, Luo Yetian smiled. Just then, Ji Xiaoyu stopped and tore off the red veil from her head, igniting it in her palm until it quickly turned to ashes. Her expression was icy cold, eyes fixed on Luo Yetian, with a faint smile on her lips. Luo Yetian felt uncomfortable under her gaze and frowned. "What do you mean by this?" The surrounding Luo family cultivators also frowned. Was Ji Xiaoyu about to oppose this marriage? "Quickly bring another red veil," the clan leader of the Ji family ordered, looking at Ji Qianquan with a dissatisfied expression. Before Ji Qianquan could speak, Ji Xiaoyu soared into the sky, hovering 100 meters above. The Luo family cultivators didn't stop her, curious about her intentions. Did she plan to cancel the marriage in the 7 Stars spirit realm? A red pattern appeared on Ji Xiaoyu's forehead, the runes of the primordial Daoist talisman. As the power of the talisman surged out, her aura transformed drastically. "You mortals disturb my rebirth process, how utterly vexing," Ji Xiaoyu said, frowning slightly. Her voice resonated through the skies, her tone coldly indifferent, making the Ji family cultivators find her unrecognizable. Luo Yetian, sensing something, ascended to her level and asked suspiciously, "Who exactly are you?" One by one, the Luo family cultivators appeared in the air, surrounding Ji Xiaoyu. The sky and sea of clouds churned, forming thunderclouds. A towering figure appeared within those clouds, like a giant god standing in outer heaven, overlooking the world. Ji Xiaoyu did not look up but calmly gazed at Luo Yetian. "Some karmic entanglements are beyond your reach. Disturbing my cultivation, even reincarnation will not pardon you. Boom! An immense pressure erupted from Ji Xiaoyu, and golden flames emanated from her forehead, rapidly forming a 100-meter-tall silhouette behind her. The figure looked exactly like her but radiated an aura surpassing the Mahayana realm. Ji Xiaoyu raised her hand, grasping at the sky. The phantom behind her mirrored her movements, shattering the thunderclouds with one hand. Within her palm, an awe-inspiring figure appeared, the same one from earlier, now filled with fear. Before he could speak, golden flames engulfed him. In an instant he was incinerated, leaving no trace behind. Chapter 248. Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal, One Sword to Sever. Impudent. Seeing Ji Xiaoyu summon a phantom that directly annihilated the great cultivator of the Luo family, the other Luo family cultivators were instantly enraged. They each brought out their own Dharma treasures, prepared to kill her on the spot. Luo Yedin was about to speak when the phantom behind Ji Xiaoyu suddenly erupted with golden flames, sweeping in all directions. The cultivators from all directions were too late to dodge and could only instinctively use spiritual power and mana to resist. As the golden flames swept past, the entire world suddenly changed. The sky turned crimson, and countless meteors fell from the distance. Each meteor stirred up a shockwave, creating a breathtaking spectacle. Ji Xiaoyu stood high above, a trace of blood seeping from the corner of her mouth, but her brows did not knit together, remaining indifferent. The phantom behind her ignited with golden flames, and the Tao patterns on its forehead flickered with a strange light. She raised her right hand to her mouth, muttering something, and layers of golden glyphs burst forth from her body, expanding rapidly to dominate the entire sky in less than 3 breaths. I didn't expect the primordial Daoist talisman to contain will. I wonder which ancient predecessor it is that we have disturbed? An elderly voice rang out as an old man in a gray robe appeared, blocking in front of Luo Yedin. Luo Yedin quickly raised his hand to salute him, his demeanor respectful. The old man in the gray robe did not turn around, his gaze fixed intently on the golden phantom behind Ji Xiaoyu. A loose immortal is not enough, Ji Xiaoyu's voice rang out once more. The gray-robed old man's face changed dramatically, and he immediately took out a jade staff. Boom! A horrifying wave of golden flames rushed towards him. The gray-robed old man used his mana to resist, but Luo Yedin behind him still felt the searing pain. This pain was not just on the surface, even his soul felt the agony. How is this possible? Who exactly is she? Luo Yedin thought in disbelief. The Ji family members below were equally astonished. Was Ji Xiaoyu's primordial Daoist talisman really containing such terrifying power? Ji Qinquan suddenly remembered what Ji Xiaoyu had told him 3 years ago, and a chill ran down his spine. The gray-robed old man, possessing loose immortal cultivation, couldn't withstand the vast golden flames. Blood spots appeared on his skin, as did on Luo Yishan's behind him. The other Luo family great cultivators attacked from different directions, but their mana quickly dissolved as it approached the golden flames, unable to harm Ji Xiaoyu. The mountains trembled as if they were about to collapse, startling the cultivators in their caves. More and more people flew into the sky, looking at Ji Xiaoyu in disbelief. Under their gaze, the golden phantom behind Ji Xiaoyu raised its right hand, drawing cracks across the sky with its fingertips. When her hand stopped, the space along the path shattered instantly, golden flames coiling around the edges of the space rift, forming a gigantic halo. The blood spilling from Ji Xiaoyu's mouth increased, but her eyes remained calm. The golden phantom behind her drew a giant golden fan from the halo, its surface shaped like maple leaves, covered with glyphs, as if hiding numerous worlds. As the giant golden fan descended, the world began to collapse, space twisted and shattered, clouds dispersed, and giant peaks crumbled. The cultivators residing in this land scattered like headless flies, in extreme panic. Retreat with the people. The gray-robed old man's voice was low and solemn as he resisted the golden flames, having transformed into a man of blood. Luo Yedin behind him was slightly better, but his skin also began to ulcerate. Luo Yedin gritted his teeth, just about to turn and leave. At that moment, the golden phantom behind Ji Xiaoyu suddenly swung the fan. A wave of burning flames swept across half of the sky, vaporizing all the cultivators along the way. Gray-robed old man and Luo Yedin couldn't escape. As the flame wave passed, both of them turned into light stars, their bodies and souls annihilated, scattering like falling sparks. This scene left the Ji family cultivators and other clan cultivators stunned and terrified. Ji Xiaoyu tilted her head, looking down at Ji Qingquan. The Ji family cultivators were extremely tense, not daring to meet her gaze. Everyone within the Ji family knew that the family had planned to sacrifice her. She didn't truly wish to marry. With so many dead from the Luo family, how will the Ji family live in the future? Ji Xiaoyu's icy voice reached the ears of the Ji family members. Ji Qingquan, Ji Hantian, and the others felt a chill rise from their hearts, spreading throughout their bodies. Ji Xiaoyu's eyes began to fill with blood, quickly turning blood red. "Xiaoyu, what exactly do you want to do?" Ji Hantian quickly asked. Apart from the Luo family, no other families had suffered from the golden flames, making other clan cultivators silently sigh in relief. Ji Xiaoyu's eyes, now blood red, raised to look towards the horizon. At the end of the world appeared a massive black rift from which silhouettes flew out, rapidly approaching. These figures all had an aura stronger than the previous gray-robed old man. A horrifying killing intent locked onto Ji Xiaoyu. Ji Xiaoyu raised her right hand, and the golden phantom behind her mirrored the motion with its giant golden fan. At that moment, a figure appeared before her. Her eyes widened in surprise, showing clear shock despite the blood covering them. Guwen, wielding the 9 extremes yin-yang body, stood before Ji Xiaoyu. He held a sword in each hand, one being the heavenly resident sword, the other the Qinghong sword, both shrouded in dark purple demonic qi, hiding their true forms. Facing the approaching great cultivators from afar, Guwen casually swung his swords. The sword light illuminated the world. A streak of sword qi, like a white rainbow, swept across the sky. The great cultivators of the 7 stars spirit realm attacking Ji Xiaoyu were swallowed by the sword qi before they could even see Guwen's form, turned to ash and vanished. You have successfully taken 590 years of lifespan from Luo Ku, 7th level of Lu's immortal realm. You have successfully taken 387 years of lifespan from Daoist Zhenlan, 9th level of Lu's immortal realm. You have successfully taken 1,032 years of lifespan from Lu Changfeng, 7th level of Lu's immortal realm. One by one, notifications appeared before Guwen's eyes. Guwen turned to look at the devastated Ji Xiaoyu, deeply alarmed. The power of this primordial Daoist talisman was astonishing. It was already comparable to the wandering immortal realm. However, Ji Xiaoyu was struggling to withstand it. Her life force was fading rapidly. He spoke, "Withdraw your divine skill." He used the voice of sword Venerable Fudao, hoarse and steady. Ji Xiaoyu smiled and said, "Reincarnation has begun, and it cannot be reversed." Guwen's gaze shifted to the golden phantom behind her. He could see that the soul aura of the golden phantom was identical to Ji Xiaoyu's. This power must have originated from somewhere else, summoned rather than hidden within her. He tried a lifespan detection on the golden phantom but found nothing. "Sword Venerable, have you come specifically to assist me?" Ji Xiaoyu suddenly asked. Guwen replied, "I came to annihilate the 7 stars spirit realm." Ji Xiaoyu's eyes bled as she smiled. "This life was too short, Sword Venerable. If we are fated, we shall meet again in the future." Her body suddenly burst forth with golden light and then scattered. A golden talisman appeared, absorbing the surrounding golden light into itself, and then quickly merged into the golden phantom. Guwen's gaze fell on the giant fan in the hands of the golden phantom, feeling the terrifying power within it. This treasure was no weaker than the divine exotic city, and it wasn't even a physical object, just manifested power. The golden phantom swung its fan, and an overwhelming wave of golden flames soared overhead, breaking through the heavens. The terrifying spiritual energy surged in from the minor heaven and earth outside. A burst of intense light erupted from the distant darkness, a presence beyond a wandering immortal realm approaching extremely fast. Heaven and earth flying immortal. This heaven and earth flying immortal raised his palm to strike, intending to annihilate the golden phantom with one blow. The golden phantom immediately raised its fan to defend. Rumble, the heavens trembled, and space collapsed and twisted. Guan stood beneath the fan, looking up at the giant golden fan, filled with curiosity about this treasure. Sword venerable, my power won't hold for long. Ji Xiaoyu's voice sounded tired. The golden phantom's arm trembled, the fan moving closer to Guan, unable to withstand the power of the heaven and earth flying immortal. Guan focused, using lifespan detection on the heaven and earth flying immortal. Earth Gang Divine Lord, first layer of heaven and earth flying immortal realm 129080/23000/250000. A heaven and earth flying immortal who had lived for 12,000 years. Guan took a step, crossing the distance of two formidable powers, appearing in front of the Earth Gang Divine Lord. The Earth Gang Divine Lord's face changed dramatically, disbelief showing on his face. Sword light flashed, sword chi burst forth. With one slash, Guan annihilated the Earth Gang Divine Lord, body and soul, in an instant. The terrifying force even pushed back the Golden Phantom. The Golden Phantom, holding the giant fan, looked at Guan's back, its features changing, clearly startled by Guan's power. I underestimated you, Sword Venerable. I look forward to meeting you again, Ji Xiaoyu's voice sounded. Immediately after, the Golden Phantom scattered, merging into the primordial Daoist talisman. The primordial Daoist talisman tore through space and quickly disappeared. Guan turned to see the Ji family cultivators retreating. Amid the crowd, Ji Hantian seemed to sense something and looked back, meeting his gaze. At that moment, Ji Hantian felt a mix of shock and guilt. He was shocked at Sword Venerable Fudeo's invincible presence in the Seven Stars spirit realm, and guilt-ridden for seemingly disappointing the elder. He had always thought that the righteous path, inscribed on the heavenly repair platform, was left by Sword Venerable Fudao, hoping he could lead the supreme sect onto the righteous path. The fiery aura in the skies surged like tidal waves. A blink of an eye later, Ji Hantian could no longer see Sword Venerable Fudeo's figure. Guan took one step across space, arriving at a vast white jade square where thousands of disciples of the Seven Stars spirit realm were meditating, all facing a grand palace ahead. No one noticed Guan's arrival. Guan's gaze shifted to the palace, feeling the presence of another heaven and earth flying immortal hidden within. Chapter 249. If the heavens don't take you, I will in the palace. The sound of preaching continuously echoed, immersing the cultivators in the plaza, making it difficult for them to extricate themselves. Guan, holding his twin swords, stepped forward. Against the Seven Stars spirit realm, he did not intend to reach the level of exterminating everyone. He only wanted to slaughter the high-ranking members to disperse the Seven Stars spirit realm on this continent. If he were to annihilate the entire Seven Stars spirit realm, the surrounding major forces would undoubtedly become more wary of him, possibly drawing even stronger entities. Guan walked among the disciples of the Seven Stars spirit realm. With each step, he resisted the preaching sound from the palace. The disciples behind him awakened one by one. Seeing Guan, they were startled, hurriedly got up, took out their magic artifacts and divine weapons, and prepared for battle. Guan continued to walk without looking back or pausing his steps. Who is he? What does he intend to do? I can't see through his cultivation level. We shouldn't act rashly after all. There's a divine lord stationed here. Could he be someone from the Star Sea congregations? No, this seems like the Demon Shadow Divine Skill, a cultivation technique from the Thousand Autumn Pavilion of the Taizong dynasty. I have seen it before. The one who mastered it fully is the Sword Venerable Fudao residing in the Supreme Sect. Sword Venerable Fudao. These 4 words made the disciples in the plaza tremble with fear. How could they not have heard of Sword Venerable Fudao, who even forced the cave master divine soul true lord of the 6 stars cave to retreat. It was said that after that battle, the divine soul true lord disappeared and no one knew where he went. There were also speculations within the 7 stars spirit realm that the divine soul true lord was killed by Sword Venerable Fudao. No matter the claim, the strength of Sword Venerable Fudao was something the 7 stars spirit realm dreaded. The disciples in this plaza were either geniuses or nobles of the 7 stars spirit realm. They knew some inside information. For example, startling Immortal Lin from the Lin family died at the hands of Sword Venerable Fudao. Instantly, more and more disciples in the plaza woke up. Regardless of their high cultivation levels, none dared to approach Guan, let alone stop him. Before long, Guan arrived in front of the palace steps. Being closer, he could better appreciate the majesty of the palace, exuding a Daoist intent Guan had never felt before. This Daoist intent could make it easier for one to comprehend Daoist sorcery, indicating that the materials of this palace were not simple and might contain some powerful formation. There was only one person inside the palace, a heaven and earth flying immortal. Stronger by a few degrees than the previous Earth Gang Divine Lord. It had to be known that the strongest beings in the 6 stars cave and the 7 stars cave were only in the wandering immortal realm. Now, 2 heaven and earth flying immortals had emerged, indicating that the 7 stars spirit realm had long been prepared. Fortunately, Guan had not rashly come before. He dared to come now because he was certain that the 7 stars spirit realm did not have a carefree primordial immortal. The Star Sea congregations were unlikely to deceive him. After all, if the 7 stars spirit realm had a carefree primordial immortal, how could they allow the Star Sea congregations to oppress them so? Sword Venerable Fudao, what kind of irreconcilable enmity do you have with my 7 stars spirit realm? An elderly voice echoed from within the palace, resounding in this heaven and earth. Hearing his voice, the agitated disciples in the plaza calmed down one by one. This was a senior from the 5 stars cave, renowned overseas, surely capable of subduing Sword Venerable Fudao. Since the 7 stars spirit realm had many minor heaven and earths, and they existed separately without being connected, the battle in the minor heaven and earth where the Ji family resided could not be felt. They were unaware that a heaven and earth flying immortal had already fallen at Guan's hands. They did not know, but the heaven and earth flying immortal inside the palace was very clear about it. Raising the demon ancestor, creating evil demons, and toying with mortals, do you still wonder if there's a grudge? Guan's voice rang out, changing the expressions of all the cultivators in the plaza. Although they had vaguely heard of it, it was still hard to accept when Sword Venerable Fudao tore away the disguise of this sin. After all, the 7 stars spirit realm prided itself as following the righteous path. Boom! The palace doors swung open, a strong wind howled out, blowing the demonic chi on Guan and forcing back all the disciples in the plaza. A figure walked out from the depths of the palace. A man in a feathered robe with a valiant face, a white crane's shadow swirling behind him, his whole being exuding immortal aura. He walked to the steps, looking down at Guan from above. You, covered in demonic chi, have come to seek justice in a holy land. Don't you find it laughable? The feathered robe man asked indifferently. 10,000 miles Divine Lord, heaven and earth flying immortal realm, 3rd layer 158082/26000/310000. Guan looked at the prompt in front of him, unmoved. He could feel that 10,000 miles Divine Lord was stalling for time. Several heaven and earth flying immortals were rushing over. This was precisely what Guan wanted. Guan responded, "Demon is not demon, immortal is not immortal. If the heavens won't judge you, I will." 10,000 miles Divine Lord laughed aloud as if he had heard a grand joke. That demon ancestor is formed from the chi fortune of heaven and earth. It can only be killed, not abolished forever. To suppress it, how many disciples of the 7 stars spirit realm have guarded here for generations? The evil demons are vile beyond measure. To seal it, how many lives has the 7 stars spirit realm lost? Sword Venerable Fudao, Do you know how many enemies the seven-star spirit realm has repelled to protect the environment of this continent? How many disciples have been buried in the ocean? You only see the suffering of the mortals on the continent, but have you considered how much the seven-star spirit realm has sacrificed? 10,000 miles Divine Lord spoke vehemently, his words stirring the emotions of all the cultivators in the plaza. Indeed, others might not know, but being disciples of the seven-star spirit realm, how could they be unaware of the seven-star spirit realm's long-term defense of the continent? Each of them had close relatives or friends who had died in battles with ocean forces and demons. They looked at Guwen with expressions full of anger, as if Guwen was the sinner. Guwen stood in place, quietly watching 10,000 miles Divine Lord. When 10,000 miles Divine Lord finished speaking, he suddenly asked, "The evil demons on the continent have been eliminated by me. Why, then, are there other evil demons in your hall?" The plaza fell silent instantly, all eyes fixed on 10,000 miles Divine Lord. 10,000 miles Divine Lord coldly replied, "Nonsense, must I let you enter the hall to check?" Rumble. Rolling thunderclouds swiftly covered the sky, vast auras descended. 10,000 miles Divine Lord visibly relaxed a bit. "My seven-star spirit realm is the holy land established by the immortal path holy court in the mortal world. How could you, an evil demon, slander it? Laughable, one who dares not reveal his true self, yet dreams of toppling the seven-star spirit realm single-handedly? Killing our divine lord of the seven-star spirit realm, today will see you eradicated without reincarnation. For hundreds of thousands of years, how many beings have been saved by my seven-star spirit realm? Do you think you can shake it? Whether one is righteous or demonic, it's not for you to judge." One after another, majestic and imposing voices resounded like thunder, startling the disciples in the plaza. They all looked up, their faces full of shock. Strong lights emerged from the swirling thunderclouds, piercing through the sea of clouds and illuminating the sky and earth. At the same time, snow began to fall over the continent. In the height of summer, snowflakes drifted down from the sky, causing all beings on earth to wonder. In the third Medicine Valley, the disciples stopped what they were doing and looked up at the snowflakes filling the sky. Yang Jian stood in front of the wooden railing, reaching out to catch a snowflake. It quickly melted, turning not into water, but a wisp of white gas. "This is..." Yang Jian frowned, sensing an elusive aura from the snowflake. This aura intrigued him, and he immediately reached out to grab more snowflakes. Yu Yingying, who was playing chess with an Xian, looked up. "Snow in summer, what kind of omen is this? I've never seen it before," an Xian muttered. Yu Yingying reached out, catching a snowflake. It turned into a wisp of white gas and dissipated. Her expression changed slightly and she whispered, "Heavenly snowfall, snow turning to gas, this is abnormal. Could it be the legendary sign of an immortal's fall?" An Xian asked curiously, "What is the sign of an immortal's fall?" Yu Yingying replied, "I've heard that when a high Dao level immortal falls, heaven and earth would produce an anomaly as a testament to their lives' cultivation achievements." An immortal's fall? Is it on this continent or overseas? An Xian asked curiously. Yu Yingying looked up, her eyes complex, and answered, "Probably on this continent." Throughout the Supreme Sect, any cultivator exposed to sunlight was discussing this sudden anomaly in heaven and earth. Yi Lan also stepped out of her room and into the courtyard. She looked up with furrowed brows. Miles away, Wu Ju was similarly affected. Yet, he seemed to attain an almost mystical state, as if comprehending something. In the great Jiang dynasty, in the Juhua sect, Jiang Qiong and the ghost mother of ephemera stood on the cliff's edge, reaching out to catch snowflakes. A sign of an immortal's fall. It appears the conflict between the seven-star spirit realm and the Star Sea congregations has reached an irreconcilable point. A high Dao level immortal has fallen, the ghost mother of ephemera said, frowning with worry. Jiang Qiong smiled. "The more fiercely they fight, the better it is for us." Despite her words, she felt an inexplicable unease, as if something bad was about to happen. In the seven stars spirit realm, the thunderclouds spread, forming a giant vortex. A golden mirror floated in the vortex, its edges carved with patterns of various divine beasts, the mirror surface a deep blue, surrounded by crimson flames. Immortal Path Supreme Treasure, the 7 Stars Mirror. In front of the 7 Stars Mirror, a figure floated. He wore a long purple robe, with 2 fiery red orbs hovering over his shoulders like suns. Behind him was a crescent moon, from which wisps of spiritual energy emanated, forming colorful clouds around him. He looked down at Guwen from above. Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning, Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm, 7th Layer 187034/42000/490000. Guwen looked at this man's lifespan with slight satisfaction. In this heaven and earth, a total of 7 heaven and earth flying immortals had appeared. Besides the Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning, the cultivation levels of the others were all below the 6th layer, except for one who had reached the 5th layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. With the appearance of the 7 Stars Mirror, the entire minor heaven and earth was sealed. Creatures outside could not enter, and those inside could not escape. The disciples in the plaza bore unimaginable pressure, falling to their knees and painfully gazing at the sky. The high-standing 6 heaven and earth flying immortals remained indifferent to the disciples' suffering. So did 10,000 Miles Divine Lord in front of the palace doors. He took out a divine weapon, a silver spear about 10 feet long, with a black flag just below the spearhead, depicting a demonic shadow. All 7 heaven and earth flying immortals focused their gazes on Guwen. At this moment, Guwen seemed to be resisting the entire heaven and earth. Chapter 250 Arrogant Sword Venerable, do you still have reinforcements? The divine light of the 7 Stars Mirror was so brilliant, illuminating the expressions of all the disciples of the 7 Stars Spirit Realm on the square. At this moment, the disciples of the 7 Stars Spirit Realm also realized that something was wrong. The high and mighty heaven and earth flying immortals seemed to be preparing to abandon them. For a while, cries, pleas for mercy, sobs, and curses kept ringing out. But Guwen, who was being stared at by the 7 heaven and earth flying immortals, was looking at the 2 treasure swords in his hand. The Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning looked down at Guwen and asked, "Do you have anything else to say?" Sword Venerable Fudeo's origins were mysterious, and he could even slay heaven and earth flying immortals, so the Realm Master couldn't help but feel some dread. He feared that there might be even more terrifying beings standing behind Sword Venerable Fudao, so he didn't act immediately. If he had no backing, he would not let Sword Venerable Fudao go today. Guwen raised his head, looked up at the 6 heaven and earth flying immortals in the sky, and asked, "Are your people all here, or do you still have reinforcements?" As soon as these words were spoken, the faces of the 7 heaven and earth flying immortals all changed dramatically. Arrogant. They had lived for hundreds of thousands of years and had never seen such an arrogant person. With the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure overhead and 7 heaven and earth flying immortals working together, could he dare to be so arrogant? The Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning thought of many possibilities in an instant. He even thought that Sword Venerable Fudao might be at a higher realm than the heaven and earth flying immortals, but then he dismissed the idea, thinking how could such an ethereal existence be hiding in a small corner of this continent? Shouldn't he go to outer heaven to seek the opportunity for the great Tao? Feeling the power of the 7 Stars Mirror, the Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning's eyes flashed with fierceness. Even if someone surpassed the heaven and earth flying immortal realm and killed so many great cultivators of the 7 Stars Spirit Realm, this matter could not be let go. He immediately raised his hand. The 7 Stars Mirror, as high as 10,000 feet, trembled violently, bursting out with even more terrifying pressure. The voices of all the disciples of the 7 Stars Spirit Realm on the square came to an abrupt end, and they desperately felt their skin ulcerate and their flesh dissolve. At this moment, a vast power enveloped them, removing the torture they were enduring. They couldn't help but widen their eyes, looking subconsciously for the source of this power, and their gaze fell on Guwen. "Have you recognized it now?" Is this the Holy Land you think it is? Gu En's voice rang out, making the faces of the disciples of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm look complicated. They were all the talented disciples of the Six Stars Cave and Seven Stars Cave, believing they had a great role in bearing the future of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. Yet now, they were being abandoned by the Seven Stars Spirit Realm without any fault of their own. How could they accept this? The 10,000 Miles Divine Lord also flew under the Seven Stars Mirror. The seven immortals worked together, their bodies bursting into light, resembling the Big Dipper, suspended under the Seven Stars Mirror. Their mana merged with the aura of the Seven Stars Mirror, making the pressure of the Seven Stars Mirror even more formidable. Gu En looked up at them, feeling emotional. So this was the power of the Immortal Path's supreme treasure? He felt that the power displayed by the Seven Stars Mirror at this moment had already surpassed that of the heaven and earth flying immortals. Even a great cultivator of the first three layers of the carefree primordial immortal realm would find it difficult to resist. Of course, even if a carefree primordial immortal couldn't match it, escaping would still be easy. Gu En suddenly had a new idea. He asked aloud, "Gentlemen, if I shatter this dark sky, can you bring brightness to this land?" Upon hearing this, the seven heaven and earth flying immortals frowned. The disciples of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm on the square were all stunned. Before they could react, Gu En slashed his sword. His right hand held the heavenly resident sword. His wrist rotated with the tiger's mouth facing downwards, and the blade slashed upwards. His posture was so casual. This sword seemed to have no powerful momentum, yet as the sword slashed the sky, flames and air blasts dissipated. The seven heaven and earth flying immortals in front of the Seven Stars Mirror could not evade and were directly turned to ashes. Boom! The Seven Stars Mirror was struck by sword chi, shaking violently. The thunderclouds above were directly cleaved, and sunlight poured down. The tens of thousands of geniuses of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm on the square were all dumbfounded, unable to believe their eyes. They had already felt the power of the Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning and the Seven Stars Mirror. That was a power they couldn't even imagine or resist. Even though Sword Venerable Fudeo's mana protected them, they still thought a fierce battle would occur. But that wasn't the case. One sword to annihilate, crushing and devastating. It seemed as if they hadn't killed the strongest of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm but rather the cloud waves in the sky. The storm swept across the world, and the fierce wind crashed through the spirit mist enveloping the mountains and rivers. One after another, the mountain forests appeared, pressed by the violent gale like turbulent waves, spectacular beyond compare. Only the Seven Stars Mirror remained in the sky. The 10,000-foot-high Seven Stars Mirror quickly withdrew its aura. The mirror body trembled for a while and then began to fall. You have successfully taken 25,709 years of life from the Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning, 7th layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. You have successfully taken 10,041 years of life from the 10,000 Miles Divine Lord, 3rd layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. You have successfully taken 18,116 years of life from the Divine Lord Xiaolang, 5th layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. A total of 6 messages appeared in front of Gu En, making Gu En secretly puzzled. Why was one person missing? Gu En remembered that person, named Thousand-Faced Divine Lord, with a cultivation level of the 4th layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. He clearly felt that the 7 Heaven and Earth Flying Immortals all turned to ashes, and it was impossible for anyone to escape. Could it be that this person had other avatars? If so, why could he still sense their lifespan? Gu En's divine sense quickly enveloped the continent and kept expanding but couldn't find any trace of the Thousand-Faced Divine Lord. This opened his eyes. The Thousand-Faced Divine Lord was quite a character, able to escape from his hands, even more capable than the Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning at the 7th layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. Gu En suddenly gained more than 80,000 years of life. Previously, when he killed the cultivators of the Luo family, he had also gained more than 50,000 years of life. This time, he gained nearly 130,000 years of life, which was quite good, saving him months of effort. The most important thing was to eliminate potential threats. Guwen raised his hand, storing the now shrunken 7 stars mirror in his hand. He probed it with his divine sense, overbearingly destroying layers of restrictions, quickly finding the immortal spirit, and forcibly making it acknowledge him as its master. The storm in the world was still surging. The cultivators on the square looked up, remaining silent for a while before accepting the fact that they had survived. Thump. A cultivator suddenly knelt down, facing Guwen, and began to kowtow. With someone taking the lead, others followed suit and kowtowed. Over 10,000 people bowed to Guwen, making a rather magnificent scene. It is up to you to change the 7 stars spirit realm on this land. If it continues to be like before, named as a holy land but practicing evil, I will return. Then, it won't be just the high-ranking members who will die. Guwen's voice rang out, and he slashed towards the palace with the Qinghong sword in his left hand. Boom! A sword chi swept out, forcefully splitting the palace into 2, immediately turning it into ashes. Such overwhelming power at his fingertips made the kneeling cultivators tremble in fear, and at the same time, they felt a fervent admiration for Guwen's sword. Venerable Fudao was not only powerful but also saved them. How could they harbor resentment? If they were to hate anyone, it would be those high-ranking members who wanted to kill them. At this moment, they all widened their eyes. As the palace turned to ashes, demons flew out. Their aura was all that of evil demons, with male, female, and even demon forms. They wailed and were ultimately obliterated by the wind. Exterminating a group of evil demons did not bring Guwen any lifespan, but it gave the geniuses of the 7 stars spirit realm a tremendous mental shock. How could the Holy Land nurture so many evil demons? When they came back to their senses, Guwen's figure was already gone. A teleportation array appeared in the distant sky, and countless cultivators surged in. The genius disciples on the square were still in shock, recalling everything that had happened earlier, feeling like they were in a dream. In a dim palace, a woman in a purple dress watched as the 6 oil lamps at the highest point of the wall went out simultaneously. Her eyebrows immediately furrowed. The young ghost boy on her shoulder widened his eyes and exclaimed in shock, "Have the realm masters fallen? How is that possible?" The highest oil lamps represented the pinnacle of power in the 7 stars spirit realm. The oil lamp of the realm master of heavenly meaning was particularly large, like a moon surrounded by stars. At this moment, a figure appeared out of thin air beside the woman in the purple dress. As soon as this person appeared, he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. He immediately sat down to cultivate energy, suppressing the chaotic chi and blood in his body. The woman in the purple dress turned to look at him, her eyebrows furrowing even more tightly. "Thousand-faced divine lord, what on earth happened? Why did the realm masters all fall?" The woman in the purple dress asked. The person cultivating energy was none other than the thousand-faced divine lord who had escaped from Guwen's hands. He was wearing a blue robe with long hair draped over his shoulders, and his face was as delicate as a woman's. At this moment, his complexion was extremely pale, and his lips were still trembling. The 6 stars cave was attacked, and the realm masters thought the Star Sea congregations were attacking, so they went to support. We encountered Sword Venerable Fudao from the continent. He annihilated us with a single sword. The power of the 7 stars mirror couldn't withstand his sword chi. The 7 stars mirror has now fallen into his hands. The thousand-faced divine lord said tremulously. He opened his eyes, filled with despair, and said, "He was too strong." The heaven and earth flying immortals were like dust before him. If I hadn't detected something wrong and used my divine skills to switch my main soul and avatar, I would have died too. Even so, the fall of my avatar brought me enormous backlash, and I will need to recover for the next 10,000 years. Thinking about Sword Venerable Fudao's figure, his body couldn't help but tremble. He then looked at the woman in the purple dress and said, "Second Cave Master, the 7 stars spirit realm is finished. The 7 heaven and earth flying immortals are dead, leaving only you and me." With the 7 stars mirror in Sword Venerable Fudao's hands, We are powerless to resist the star sea congregations. We need to make plans early. The woman in the purple dress was the second cave master of the 7 stars spirit realm. After listening to the thousand-faced divine lord, she fell into silence. Recently, the 7 stars spirit realm had been repeatedly suppressed by the star sea congregations. She had considered the possibility of their demise but didn't expect it to come so quickly. In just one day, 7 heaven and earth flying immortals had fallen. Heaven and earth flying immortals were the foundation of the 7 stars spirit realm. Plans? What plans can we have? Moreover, the gate to the divine exotic realm has already opened. Once the catastrophe descends, entangled by karma, escaping to outer heaven would be useless. The second cave master said, her gaze eerie, as if thinking about something. The thousand-faced divine lord used his power to suppress his injuries and said, I don't care. I must leave the 7 stars spirit realm. I have cultivated for tens of thousands of years and don't want my path to end abruptly. If there is something I can do to help in the future, feel free to ask. But I do not want to fight Sword Venerable Fudao again. He stood up, bowing to the second cave master, then disappeared from the spot. In the dim great hall, only the second cave master and the young ghost boy on her shoulder were left. The flickering candlelight made their shadows look like ferocious demons. Chapter 251. The world changes drastically. A huge trouble in the forest. Guwen sat in meditation under a tree, leaning against the trunk, playing with the 7 stars mirror. The 7 stars mirror, which emitted an aura rivaling that of a carefree primordial immortal, became small and exquisite in his hands, looking nothing like an immortal path's supreme treasure. Snowflakes fell through the gaps in the leaves, landing on him and melting into vapor. 7 heaven and earth flying immortals had suddenly fallen, causing the heavens and the earth to mourn, and snowflakes continued to fall. While holding the 7 stars mirror, Guwen also used his divine sense to trace the primordial Daoist talisman. He was very curious about Ji Xiaoyu's ancestry and divine skills. When the primordial Daoist talisman fled, he specifically used his divine sense to follow it. Although the primordial Daoist talisman crossed the rules of heaven and earth, hiding in places unreachable by living beings, he could still track it. He noticed that the primordial Daoist talisman did not leave the continent but returned to the Ji family. However, it was not to the branch family where Ji Xiaoyu was born, but to a branch family located in the Great Jiang dynasty. Guwen thought of Ji Xiaoyu's decisive appearance earlier and felt a little sentimental. He did not expect Ji Xiaoyu to go all out directly. That mysterious shadow should be her past life. Ji Xiaoyu seemed to be practicing a method similar to the primordial reincarnation skill. The difference was that while the primordial reincarnation skill accumulated qi fortune and talent through reincarnation, Ji Xiaoyu already possessed great power herself, and she could even summon this power, crossing ages and reincarnations. What would Ji Xiaoyu be like at her peak? He did not know. He just felt it was a pity for Ji Xiaoyu to fall in this life. Third miss, I hope you have good fortune in your next life and are no longer coerced by your family, Guwen thought. Seeing that the primordial Daoist talisman still remained in the Ji family, he was very puzzled about the relationship between Ji Xiaoyu and the Ji family. If it was only a relationship in this life, why not reincarnate into a different family? Perhaps he could ask the soul of the branch family, Ji Zhan. But after thinking about it, he decided against it. That was Ji Xiaoyu and the Ji family's destiny. Why should he interfere, and what reason did he have to investigate? Guwen treated everyone around him like this, not prying into their pasts, but cherishing their current companionship. After this battle, he looked forward to meeting Ji Xiaoyu again in the future. By then, would Ji Xiaoyu be another person, or still the third miss of this life? The mirror of the 7 stars mirror reflected Guwen's handsome face. His eyes seemed to cross the vast ocean of time, reaching the other side of destiny. Guwen focused on the 7 stars mirror. This was a truly well-preserved immortal path supreme treasure, even stronger than divine exotic city. Even after being attacked by his mana, the 7 stars mirror did not develop a single crack. Instinct told him that the Seven Stars mirror could become even stronger. It was just that the realm master of heavenly meaning and others could only unleash it to that level. He connected his mind with the Seven Stars' immortal spirit. Immediately, the Seven Stars mirror began to change, its edges transforming from the shape of a divine beast to floral patterns, and its overall color turned dim. At first glance, it was just an ancient and plain mirror, nothing resembling a supreme treasure. He revealed a satisfied smile, then placed the Seven Stars mirror into his bosom. He stood up, looking at the still falling heavy snow, but feeling that the sky had become brighter than before. It's time to go home. The summer snowfall lasted for 7 days. When the heavenly phenomena dissipated, news about the Seven Stars spirit realm had not yet spread, but the supreme sect had already been alarmed. To be precise, the entire immortal cultivation world of the 3 dynasties was sending people to investigate, and there were even continuous streams of overseas cultivators arriving, heading for the Seven Stars spirit realm. But this time, no great cultivator dared to fly over the supreme sect. A great storm was brewing. After Guan returned to the supreme sect, he acted as if nothing had happened, occasionally checking the primordial Daoist talisman to see if Ji Xiaoyu had reincarnated. Life remained leisurely, but Guan felt more relaxed than before. At least the Seven Stars spirit realm was no more. That's right, it was going to be gone. Guan's divine sense surveyed the ocean, seeing the cultivators from the Star Sea congregations chasing down the Seven Stars spirit realm cultivators everywhere. It wasn't just the Star Sea congregations, other major forces were also following to devour the Seven Stars spirit realm's territory and chi fortune, showing him the scene of survival of the fittest. One day, someone came to visit Guan. It was none other than the Nine-Finger Divine Lord, who served as a guest elder of the supreme sect. Although this man was of the second level of the wandering immortal realm, his maximum lifespan reached 800,000 years, and his current lifespan was 180,000 years. He suspected the Nine-Finger Divine Lord had once fallen from a higher realm. When the Nine-Finger Divine Lord first joined the supreme sect, it was Guan who had shown him around, leading to their friendship. Chu Jingfeng was still following him for training. Under the tree, Guan and the Nine-Finger Divine Lord sat face to face, with an Exin helping to pour tea. The Nine-Finger Divine Lord smiled and nodded at an Exin, then chatted with Guan, praising him for managing the Medicine Valley in an orderly manner. Since meeting Guan, his heart had become calm. Overseas, no matter where he went, the air was filled with scheming and power struggles, but Guan's Medicine Valley had a sense of tranquility, and he felt this atmosphere was related to Guan himself. He had also inquired about Guan from Chu Jingfeng, and Chu Jingfeng's evaluation of Guan was the same as his own. He definitely wouldn't imagine that I have the cultivation level of the second level of the wandering immortal realm. Also, it's probable he hasn't heard of the term wandering immortal in this short life. The Nine-Finger Divine Lord held the tea bowl, looking at Guan with a smile. Guan raised his bowl as well and smiled back at him. If this old fellow knew I was at the 9th layer of the carefree primordial immortal, could he remain this calm? Guan thought, finding it very amusing. The Nine-Finger Divine Lord suddenly said, "Lately the world has been unstable, you need to be careful, try to stay out of the valley as much as possible." Hearing this, Guan frowned and asked, "Senior, has something major happened?" The Nine-Finger Divine Lord hesitated for a moment, then softly said, "To be honest, the holy land of this continent, the Seven Stars spirit realm, is about to collapse. This will inevitably affect the balance of both the continent and the ocean. Without the pressure of the Seven Stars spirit realm, it's inevitable that more great cultivators will invade this continent." Guan asked in surprise, "How could that be possible? That's a holy land." The disadvantages of destroying the Seven Stars spirit realm hadn't escaped Guan's consideration. But there were pros and cons to everything. Even if the Seven Stars spirit realm wasn't destroyed, who knew what calamity it planned next? If it weren't for him, the immortal cultivation world of the 3 dynasties and the beings of the continent would have long perished in the demon calamity. Guan had a clear conscience. Considering his own safety, he only thought about being a savior. He never shouldered the world's safety. He was first a man, then an immortal. It's indeed incredible. That was a colossus standing for hundreds of thousands of years. I don't know who did it. The nine-finger divine lord sighed. Guan asked, since the world is about to fall into chaos, why doesn't Senior stay in the supreme sect? The ocean is surely more dangerous than the continent, isn't it? He hoped to fully bring the nine-finger divine lord into the supreme sect's camp, so he wouldn't have to deal with some minor threats. Truth be told, killing didn't have that much appeal to him, compared to the longevity offered by medicinal herbs. The nine-finger divine lord nodded and said, I'm planning to stay for a while, because I have a suspicion in my mind. What suspicion? That I cannot tell you, lest you get entangled in karma. Really? Then please don't say it. Though I'm unaware of your realm, your world is definitely not one I can tread. Haha. Hearing Guinness' words, the nine-finger divine lord laughed heartily. Throughout his life, he had met many people, but few were as calm and open-minded as Guin. Although he hadn't revealed his true cultivation level, even his superficial level was enough to make most core formation realm cultivators go out of their way to please him. Guin was different. Their friendship was one of a gentleman's, without any interests involved, making him feel very comfortable. Guin didn't listen to him much. From time to time, he would talk about amusing things in his valley. Though plain, they had a unique flavor to the nine-finger divine lord. Having stood atop the clouds for so long, occasionally looking at the lives of mortals was quite nice. Later, Guin invited the nine-finger divine lord to play a game of Go. After explaining the rules just once, the nine-finger divine lord understood. At first, the nine-finger divine lord's moves were messy, but after about 40 moves he started to develop his own strategy. From blind defense to strategic preparation, he improved rapidly. Guin became interested and started playing seriously. In the end, he won. The defeated nine-finger divine lord was not angry. Instead, he looked at the board with interest, savoring Guin's strategies. Interesting, let's play again, the nine-finger divine lord said, looking up. Guin then called out to Xiaochuan, who was passing by, asking him to play, stating that Xiaochuan was better than him, making Xiaochuan raise his chin. The nine-finger divine lord didn't care who his opponent was as long as they knew how to play. Thus, the two began to battle on the Go board, attracting other disciples to watch the excitement. Yang Jian stood by Guin, watching the game. He wasn't interested in Go. He preferred Chinese chess with its more straightforward and intense battles. However, he could sense the nine-finger divine lord's profound aura, indicating that this person was very powerful, prompting him to watch the excitement. They played until dusk, and Xiaochuan was dazed. The nine-finger divine lord stood up contentedly, looked at Guin and said, "All right, I need to go to the main city of the sect. I'll come back later for another game. I think this Go contains the true meaning of Dao. Good game." His gaze fell involuntarily on Yang Jian. Oh! The nine-finger divine lord's eyes changed immediately. Although Yang Jian had concealed his cultivation, the nine-finger divine lord could tell at a glance that Yang Jian's physique was special. Guin quickly said, "You already took away Chu Jingfeng, don't even think about taking my disciple. He is with me for life." The surrounding disciples looked at Yang Jian with complex expressions. Could Yang Jian really be a genius? Yang Jian echoed, "That's right. I will serve my master for life and will never acknowledge another master." Next to him, an Xian showed a look of envy, thinking of her own master in her youth. If she had extraordinary talent, would her master have been willing to keep her by his side? But then she let it go, thinking her senior and how had exceptional talent but still couldn't stay with the master. The nine-finger divine lord gave Yang Jian a deep look, then turned his gaze to Guin and said, "Your disciple is indeed extraordinary. Make sure he stays in the Medicine Valley and doesn't descend the mountain. Otherwise, he might cause you trouble." After speaking, the nine-finger divine lord leaped into the air, like a white crane flying toward the horizon. His words made the surrounding disciples look at Yang Jian with even more curiosity, but Yang Jian remained calm and indifferent. "'Cause my master trouble? Provoking my master, that would be the real trouble." Chapter 252 The Influence of Sword Venerable Fudao. For the Medicine Valley, the matter of the Nine-Finger Divine Lord was just a small episode, which did not affect the daily life of the valley. Instead, Yang Jian's status grew higher, and other disciples began to show him respect. If Yang Jian becoming Gu En's disciple might have been due to Gu En's favoritism, now even the Nine-Finger Divine Lord favored him, indicating that Yang Jian was truly a genius, merely unrecognizable to the ordinary eye. Early the next morning, Gu En rode the Blood Prison Great Saint to Tianya Valley. In the coming month, all the medicine valleys would enter a period of harvest, which he looked forward to greatly. Time quickly reached the end of summer. A piece of news suddenly stirred the entire immortal cultivation world, sweeping through the supreme sect like a storm. The news came extremely abruptly. Gu En had just returned to the Mystic Valley when he heard disciples within the valley discussing. This morning, a cultivator swept across the sky above the Mystic Valley, announcing a grand event that shocked the world. The demonic tribulation originated in the holy land of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm, where Sword Venerable Fudao descended to the realm, slaying demons and reconstructing the Holy Land. The amount of information contained in this event was immense. Even the servant disciples at the bottom of the immortal cultivation world were intensely discussing it. Seeing Gu En return, Lu Jiojia immediately approached him to inform him of this matter. I never thought the demonic tribulation was secretly orchestrated by the Holy Land. No wonder they did not intervene in previous calamities, Lu Jiojia said angrily. The scandal of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm reminded him of his previous experiences within the Supreme Sect. Could it be that there is no absolutely pure righteous path in the world? Gu En listened attentively, and when he heard Lu Jiojia praise Sword Venerable Fudao as invincible in the world, he smiled and echoed the sentiment, appearing as a worshipper of the Sword Venerable. After chatting for a long time, he hurried to Outer Gate City. Because he had gone to Nianchu Cave Mansion last night, he did not bring the Blood Prison Great Saint. On his way to Outer Gate City, Gu En saw the figures of many disciples. Recalling 100 years ago, seeing disciples outside the outer gate was a rare sight, testifying to the current strength of the Supreme Sect. Upon reaching Outer Gate City, it was bustling with people. The noise filled Gu En's ears, and almost everyone was excited, with the name Sword Venerable Fudao on everyone's lips. Gu En made his way to the heavenly repair platform, where there were even more people. However, this time, disciples of the Law Enforcement Hall of the Supreme Sect were stationed at the edges of the platform, temporarily forbidding anyone from stepping on it, with even Xie being driven off. Gu En saw circles of people surrounding the heaven-cutting axe, including Ji Hantian and Gu Zong, with Sui Jin, the guardian of the heaven-cutting axe, forced to the back, looking dissatisfied. He sensed several familiar auras that he had encountered in the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. They were the geniuses he had saved from the Seven Stars Spirit Realm, now kneeling before the heaven-cutting axe, accompanied by loose immortals who were explaining the transformation of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. Their sincerity was apparent. The Seven Stars Spirit Realm had a profound heritage. Destroying the higher echelons was not enough to completely dissolve it, but if the remaining members could rebuild a new Seven Stars Spirit Realm for the benefit of all beings, it would be a good thing. Gu En's gaze involuntarily turned to Xie. The son of the Demon Emperor had now fully integrated into the Supreme Sect and even became a high-ranking member. Sensing his gaze, Xie glanced back at him, nodding to acknowledge him. Gu En nodded in return, feeling somewhat nostalgic, as the two had grown distant over time. He wasn't angry or sad. Some people naturally drifted apart over time, not always from disdain but simply because they had no common topics after a long period without contact. He did not approach further and instead walked away. Besides Xie, he had many friends in Outer Gate City. Though most were drinking buddies who could chat, drink, and enjoy an afternoon together were indeed friends. Gu En wanted to hear their praises for Sword Venerable Fudao. It wasn't just the Supreme Sect, all sects under heaven were fervently spreading the news. Sword Venerable Fudao single-handedly ventured into the holy land of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm, slaying immortals within, a feat that was thrilling and awe-inspiring. After this battle, no one dared to question Sword Venerable Fudao anymore. People marveled at his strength, overshadowing discussions of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm sins. Most cultivators, upon hearing about the Seven Stars Spirit Realm's crimes, at most cursed a few times without feeling disillusioned, as they were accustomed to such events. It was merely that the Spirit Realm's sins were grander. But Sword Venerable Fudao was different. Each of his actions shook the cultivators. Every time they thought they had overestimated him, he would achieve another earth-shattering feat sweeping through a holy land alone. How exaggerated was that? Immortal cultivation was not like martial arts. The higher the realm, the harder it was to take on many opponents at the same level. The Seven Stars Spirit Realm, a holy land hiding immortals, could be swept through by one person. In the following days, Yilan, Zhenqin, Shenzhen, Guyu, Zuolin, Wuzhu, and others came to talk to Guan about this event, each extremely excited. Shenzhen, unable to contain her excitement, wanted to write a book about Sword Venerable Fudao but was stopped by Guan, fearing she might offend the Sword Venerable. Though he had heard different people praise Sword Venerable Fudao, Guan still enjoyed it each time, never growing tired of it. After the first wave of excitement passed, the immortal cultivation world began to discuss the character of Sword Venerable Fudao. Despite annihilating the high-ranking members of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm, he offered them a chance, showing the true nature of an immortal to the world. Mighty and reckless, that was a demon. Strong yet benevolent, caring for all beings, that was an immortal. As the entire immortal cultivation world started worshipping Sword Venerable Fudao, many imitators emerged, some copying his name, others his style. One thing was certain: Sword Venerable Fudao was influencing the immortal cultivation world with his actions. One day, Guan arrived at the mountain god temple on the North Sea Mountains. Besides Sage Xian Miao, there were 3 other cultivators in the temple, seemingly resting there by chance. The 4 were discussing Sword Venerable Fudao. Sage Xian Miao, who mostly stayed there and seldom interacted with people, was shocked upon hearing that Sword Venerable Fudao had forced the Seven Stars Spirit Realm to reform. That was the Seven Stars Spirit Realm, a behemoth never dared to be provoked or even inquired about by their ancestors of the 3 Pure Ones Mountain, almost obliterated by Sword Venerable Fudao. Since the event was confirmed by cultivators of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm themselves, many details were revealed, solidifying Sword Venerable Fudao's strength. It was said that Sword Venerable Fudao didn't even use spells or divine skills, but with one sword he slew 7 immortals of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. Even the Seven Stars Mirror, the Spirit Realm's supreme treasure, couldn't withstand one of his swords. Sage Xian Miao felt like he was listening to a story. Why did he feel that Sword Venerable Fudao was stronger than the Mountain God? No, both the Mountain God and Sword Venerable Fudao were mighty beings above all others. Perhaps they even knew each other. Sage Xian Miao's mind was filled with fantasies. Seeing that the 3 cultivators had no intention of leaving soon, Guan moved to the edge of the North Sea. He stood by the lake, gazing at the vast expanse of water, his divine sense probing the lake bed. Buried at the bottom was the immortal king crown, untouched to this day. Back then, deeming it dangerous, he buried it. Now, having dealt with the divine exotic city and the Seven Stars Mirror, he felt he could understand the immortal king crown. With a wave of his hand, the lake's surface rippled. The immortal king crown and the short flute capable of summoning the 9 nether 13 evil immediately flew out, landing in his hand. He put the short flute into his storage bag and held the immortal king crown with both hands. Under the sunlight, the dark gold immortal king crown shimmered, the grooves on it giving it an ominous appearance. Guan immediately sent his divine sense into the immortal king crown. Boom! A powerful aura burst forth, ruffling Guan's robes and stirring waves on the lake. It was quite a spectacle. Just as expected, the internal restrictions of the immortal king crown were similar to those of the Seven Stars Mirror, but not as complete. Many restrictions were still recovering, indicating that it was a damaged immortal path supreme treasure, more damaged than the divine exotic city, lacking even the formation of a new immortal spirit. While probing the restrictions, Guwen also learned about the Immortal King Crown. Besides containing immense power, the Immortal King Crown could also devour chi blood, accelerating its recovery. The evil emperor was drained of chi blood by the Immortal King Crown, leaving only his soul. The evil emperor was only at the Mahayana realm, unable to withstand the Immortal King Crown, but now, Guwen at the 9th layer of carefree primordial immortal could easily endure it. Guwen began to refine the crown's master recognition restrictions, making it his own Dharma treasure. The process was complex, but having dealt with the divine exotic city and the 7 stars mirror, it was no longer difficult for Guwen. An hour later, Guwen successfully made the Immortal King Crown recognize him as its master. He removed the hairband from his head and wore the Immortal King Crown, tying his hair beneath it. With a thought, the crown transformed from an emperor's crown to a Daoist crown. Despite having many grooves, its reduced size made it less eerie, enhancing his ethereal aura. Guwen took out the 7 stars mirror and began to groom his hair. The more he looked, the more satisfied he felt. As expected, clothes do make the man, and adornments enhance even a Buddha's appearance. Even with his outstanding looks, fine decorations added to his charm. In the future, pairing it with exquisite robes will enhance my charisma, Guwen thought to himself. After all, he was a core formation realm cultivator. Looking good did no harm. Although he aimed to cultivate discreetly, there was no need to live too restrained. If anyone targeted him for his refined appearance and refused to reason, Guwen could only reason with them from a 9th layer carefree primordial immortal's perspective. He wandered by the lakeside, admiring the North Sea scenery until dusk. At dusk, a cultivator flew from the horizon, landing beside him and asked, "Daoist friend, may I ask which sect you are from?" Guwen cast a lifespan detection at the other person. Guhong, Core Formation Realm 8th Layer 373/500/950, a very ordinary cultivator. However, 130 years ago, such a person would have been a significant figure to Guwen. Guwen replied, "I am from the ancient sky sect. What does Daoist friend require?" Guhong, clad in gray, wearing a hat and carrying a long box, looked travel-worn. He glanced at the lake and said, "I heard that the North Sea has shown anomalies lately, with a supreme treasure about to emerge. I wonder if Daoist friend has heard anything about it." Just as Guwen was about to respond, Guhong suddenly raised his hand, forming a claw with his right hand, aiming at Guwen's heart. Chapter 253. The same person? Guhong developed animosity towards you and harbored killing intent. Do you wish to perform lifespan detection on him? Seeing Guhong make a move against him, Guwen only wanted to laugh. This fellow was truly vicious, striking as soon as the thought of killing arose, indicating that Guhong frequently engaged in such actions. Unfortunately, this time he chose the wrong opponent. Boom! As Guhong's claw touched Guwen's chest, a force exploded, causing dust and stones to fly under Guwen's feet and stirring up ripples on the lake, while Guhong instantly turned to ashes. Guwen raised his hand, brushed his temples, and continued forward, dispersing the ashes that had been Guhong with a step. The prompt to seize lifespan was directly ignored by him because the lifespan was too short. The North Sea shimmered with the light of a setting sun, and a large fish leaped at the end of the lake, resembling a crescent moon in midair. The sun set and the moon rose. 2 days later, Guwen in the form of a mountain god, arrived at the mountain god temple. The small figure jumped down from the eaves, and Sage Xianxia, upon hearing the movement, opened his eyes. Seeing it was Guwen, he quickly stood up and saluted. "How is the cultivation of medicinal herbs going? I need more herbs for my alchemy." Guwen landed on the ground and walked towards the courtyard gate, asking. Sage Xianxia stood behind him, like a mountain, but the posture was very respectful. "Not bad. But I wonder how much you need," Sage Xianxia replied. Then they left the mountain god temple and began to gather medicinal herbs. During this time, Sage Xianxia narrated the events that had occurred recently, even mentioning who had passed by the mountain god temple. He indeed did not lie. As the carefree primordial immortal, Guwen could see the past events here, and Sage Xian Miao did not hide anything. Guwen was not interested in the matters he talked about, but he was satisfied with his attitude. Having guarded this place for decades, Sage Xian Miao's attitude remained devout, and Guwen felt it necessary to reward him. After Guwen finished gathering herbal materials, the two arrived at an open space. He still left half of the herbs for Sage Xian Miao. Sage Xian Miao wanted to discuss Sword Venerable Fudao with the mountain god, but he did not know how to start, so he remained silent for a moment. You have been diligent over the years. I am very pleased. Would you like to learn a sword technique? Guwen stood on a rock, looked at Sage Xian Miao, and asked with a smile. Upon hearing this, Sage Xian Miao was stupefied for a moment and instinctively replied, "Of course, I would." Guwen raised his hand and pointed his index finger at him remotely. In an instant, Sage Xian Miao fell into a daze. He did not know how much time passed. Sage Xian Miao gradually woke up. When he opened his eyes, he no longer saw the mountain god's figure. The sunset cast dappled shadows of leaves on his face in the forest. Vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword. Sage Xian Miao was shocked. Could such a profound sword technique exist in the world? Moreover, why did this sword technique seem somewhat similar to his Li family's sword technique? However, he had been cultivating at Three Pure Ones Mountain since childhood. Although he was related to the Taizong imperial family by blood, he had not delved into the Li family's heritage. The mountain god also knows the sword Dao. I wonder how his swordsmanship compares to Sword Venerable Fudao's. Sage Xian Miao couldn't help but think. After hearing about Sword Venerable Fudao's prowess, he always speculated about Sword Venerable Fudao's cultivation level unconsciously. He had to admit that Sword Venerable Fudao's personal charm was indeed compelling, making his heart yearn. Remorseful. How could I be disloyal to the mountain god? Sage Xian Miao struggled to suppress his inner turmoil, but another thought arose within him, a thought even he could hardly believe. Could the mountain god and Sword Venerable Fudao be the same person? Before the overseas cultivators invaded, how could there have been two super-existences above the Seven Stars spirit realm simultaneously on the continent? The news of Sword Venerable Fudao vanquishing the immortals of the Seven Stars spirit realm continued to spread. In the following days, the Supreme Sect and the Seven Stars spirit realm announced their friendship, pledging to protect the people of the mainland together henceforth, setting an example for the righteous path, which established the Supreme Sect as the foremost sect in the immortal cultivation world of the three dynasties. This event greatly enhanced the Supreme Sect's influence, attracting an increasing number of people to join. The autumn wind blew through the Supreme Sect yet failed to bring desolation there. In the mountains and forests, Guwen sat on the back of the blood prison great saint, turning his head to look at the group of young boys and girls that had just brushed past them, feeling nostalgic. This group of youngsters was led by two adult men, one a village chief and the other a teacher, on their way to the Supreme Sect to seek the immortal path. Such a scene was rare, especially in the mountains between Mystic Valley and Tianya Valley. Guwen looked forward again, asked casually, "What do you think of the Supreme Sect nowadays?" The blood prison great saint thought for a while, then said, "Pretty good. It seems to be improving, and it indeed qualifies as the righteous path. Whether it be Medicine Valley or the Outer Gate City, the atmosphere is great." He knew that the Supreme Sect's current prosperity was all due to the one on his back. If the Supreme Sect ever displeased Guwen, today's glory could turn into an illusion at any moment. Having been a steed for a long time, the blood prison great saint developed some feelings for the Supreme Sect. Although there were some unsavory characters in Medicine Valley, most were not bad overall. Compared to the lower realm sect he came from, the Supreme Sect was more harmonious. Apart from not being strong enough, it matched his ideal place for immortals. He could also feel the Supreme Sect's rising fortune lately and believed that in 1,000 years, its strength would be immeasurable. Qualifying as the righteous path is good enough, Guwen said with a soft laugh. One man and one ox walked through the mountains, gradually disappearing into the depths of the forest. An ancient hour later, Guwen rode the blood prison Great Saint leisurely into Tianya Valley. He sensed the presence of others in the valley. Li Xiandao had arrived. Guwen remained unhurried, leisurely progressing forward. Li Xiandao was in a courtyard, drinking tea, with a young boy practicing swordsmanship behind him. The boy seemed to be only 7 or 8, yet his sword movements were fluid and very nimble. Luo Hun stood nearby, his eyes fixed on the boy with the sword, worried he might hurt himself. When Li Xiandao saw Guwen from afar, a smile appeared on his face. This kid has become quite ostentatious, but he knows how to enjoy life, Li Xiandao said with amused disbelief. Guwen rode a majestic demon pet, wearing a luxurious and exquisite blue robe with an extravagant dark gold crown that made him look very much like an immortal lord of the mortal world. LV Xian, who was meditating at the mountain peak, also saw Guwen and was dazzled by his attire. For some reason, there was an aura about Guwen that made him uneasy, an instinctual unease he couldn't quite explain. Seeing Li Xuando's gaze, Guwen patted the bull's back, making Blood Prison Great Saint quicken its pace. Soon, Blood Prison Great Saint reached the courtyard. Guwen dismounted and quickly walked into the yard. "Uncle, long time no see." Guwen raised his hand in a salute. Out of habit, he cast a lifespan detection on the young boy. Li Ling Tian, Energy Cultivation Realm 4th Layer 8/110/8999, A lifespan limit of 8,999 years? That was something. Guwen was curious, but his face remained calm. "Indeed, it's been a long time. I've been here for 2 days, waiting specifically to see you before I leave," Li Xiandao said with a laugh. Nowadays, he was in high spirits. The 3 dynasties' contention continued, but everyone could feel the Taizong dynasty's dominance. In the coming years, Li Xiandao was likely to unify the land, a feat no one had accomplished for thousands of years. Li Xuando's cultivation level also advanced rapidly, nearing the 9th layer of the unification realm. This guy could catch up with LV Batian within a century. The two started to chat. Guwen talked about his medicine valley in response to Li Xuando's concern, mentioning trivial matters, which Li Xiandao listened to intently. Aside from Guan's relationship with Li Xiandao was very satisfied with how Guwen managed Tianya Valley over the years. After chatting for a while, Li Xiandao started to tease Guwen about his current appearance, which was vastly different from before. "One must enjoy life when it's going well. Unlike you and senior brother Li, who can stir the world's affairs, I can also live a glamorous life in my small world, can't I?" Guwen laughed, touching the immortal king crown on his head as he spoke. Li Xiandao laughed. "It seems your crown lacks gems. Need my help? Or shall I send you a better one?" "A better one? I doubt you can afford it." Guwen shook his head to decline courteously, and Li Xiandao did not insist. He waved to Li Ling Tian, who immediately ran over, curiously watching Guwen looking at his small face. Guwen couldn't help but think of 15-year-old Liya. Their brows and eyes were somewhat similar. "This is senior brother Gu, who has the best relationship with your brother Liya," Li Xiandao introduced to Li Ling Tian. Li Ling Tian immediately saluted Guwen, in a very mature and adorable manner. Guwen was about to think of what to give as a meeting gift when Li Ling Tian asked, "Senior brother Gu, I heard you wrote Journey to the West. Have you met Sun Wukong?" Guwen was stunned, glancing at Luo Hun, who looked away. Li Xiandao kept his smile, obviously knowing this all along. It reminded him of the time he had asked Guwen about investiture of the gods. Guwen suddenly thought, had Li Xiandao known he was Pan and all along and tried to probe him intentionally? But that no longer mattered. "Yes, in my dream. In reality, I accepted an apprentice named Yang Jian," Guwen replied, patting Li Lingxian's head with a smile. "True Lord Erlang Yang Jian? Is he powerful? Can I spar with him?" Li Ling Tian became excited, clenching his little fists. Guwen laughed. "Of course, but you'll have to grow up first." Li Ling Tian nodded obediently, then, like a little adult, said, "Senior brother Gu, you must ensure your apprentice trains hard. My uncle says I have the best life grid in the world, and I fear your apprentice might not be a match for me." Li Xiandao gave him a stern look. "Your father always taught you to be modest." Li Ling Tian complained, Uncle said so, and Mother said everything in this world was created for me, so I can be confident. Li Xuando's face turned visibly displeased. Guan found it amusing and said, "All right, senior brother Gu will make sure he trains hard. Promise me you'll train well and not fight with others before sparring with my apprentice. Can you do that?" Chapter 254 True Yang Jian, False Sun Wukong. Hearing Gu An's words, Li Lingtian didn't think too much and directly agreed. Li Xiandao was very unhappy and scolded Li Lingtian. As a result, Li Lingtian got angry and started to talk back. Next came the lesson with a slap. Li Lingtian was picked up by Li Xiandao, hung over his leg, and his butt was spanked harshly. This scene reminded Gu An of scenes from his childhood in his past life. The memories of his past life were hazy, as if they were distant recollections. Gu An didn't expect Li Xiandao to have this side. He wondered whether Li Ye had been educated in this way when he was a child. However, he could see that Li Lingshan's mother seemed very unusual, and Li Xuando's words about his mother showed considerable helplessness. Gu An looked at Li Lingshan's karma and peered into his past. Soon, Gu An understood some information. Li Lingshan's mother came from the ocean, with the surname Yang, from a great family. For her, Li Xiandao had deposed the former queen and made her the new queen. He also decided to cultivate Li Lingtian as the crown prince. After peering into Li Lingshan's past, Gu An sighed to himself. Having a strong background as a mother indeed allowed for recklessness. However, Li Lingshan's life grid was also extraordinary. He was born overseas, and during his birth, there were thunderstorms that attracted the protection of great cultivators in the family. After his birth, Li Xiandao officially married Empress Yang, and the Yang family even dispatched special guards to protect Li Lingshan's growth. Currently, there were already 2 Mahayana cultivators guarding from afar. Previously, Mahayana cultivators were rare, but now they continuously flowed into the immortal cultivation world of the 3 dynasties. Perhaps the Yang family also saw the potential of this continent and made an advance bet, with Li Xiandao, who was about to unify the 3 dynasties, being a good candidate. Li Lingtian was indeed extraordinary. No matter how much Li Xiandao hit him, he didn't cry. Instead, he stubbornly glared at Li Xiandao. This boy was simply a little demon king, and in the future, Li Xiandao and Li Ye would probably suffer. "Uncle, that's enough. The child can be taught slowly in the future. Right now, he didn't actually do anything wrong. It was just his way of speaking. I didn't feel offended." Gu An spoke up, giving Li Xiandao a way out. After hearing this, Li Xiandao looked embarrassed. He looked at Gu An and said, "This boy is naturally strong and has a small mind. It's better not to let him compete with your disciple, lest he really remembers it." Li Lingtian climbed down from his father's leg and hid beside Gu An, grabbing Gu An's arm and sticking his tongue out at Li Xiandao. Gu An could feel Li Lingshan's strength. This boy was only 8 years old, yet it seemed he could easily crush a stone. "It's okay. My disciple is also very strong," Gu An said with a smile. Upon hearing this, Li Xiandao could only shake his head and not persuade further. He thought that in this world, only and how could be compared to his youngest son. Even LV Xian was not as talented as Li Lingtian. After that, Li Xiandao changed the topic to talk about Sword Venerable Fudao. At the mention of this topic, Gu An became excited and discussed it eagerly with him. Li Xiandao thought he was also an admirer of Sword Venerable Fudao, which was quite normal. Even he, the Emperor of Taizong, felt his blood surge upon hearing about Sword Venerable Fudao's deeds, much less ordinary cultivators with low cultivation levels. After chatting for an ancient hour, Li Xiandao left with Li Lingtian. Before leaving, Li Lingtian waved at Gu An and said, "Senior brother Gu, don't let Yang Jian forget this matter. When I grow up, I will come to duel with him." Gu An nodded with a smile, secretly looking forward to Li Lingshan's defeat. In terms of ultimate lifespan, Yang Jian's was higher. In terms of age, Yang Jian was older. And in terms of teachers, could Li Lingtian find a master like the carefree primordial immortal? Given that Li Xiandao treated him well, he would properly guide Li Lingtian to prevent him from straying onto the wrong path. After collecting the medicinal herbs, Guwen rode the blood prison Great Saint to leave. After traveling 100 miles away from Tianya Valley, the blood prison Great Saint said, "Master, that boy's chi blood is not simple." He could tell at a glance that Li Lingtian's bones were extraordinary and his chi fortune was special. Indeed, not simple. But do you think he can compare to Jianer? Guwen asked casually. Definitely not. There is no one more monstrous than that boy. Mentioning Yang Jian, the blood prison Great Saint sighed deeply. He watched Yang Jian transcend the mundane, which made him revere Guwen even more. It was Guwen who discovered Yang Jian. Otherwise, Yang Jian might have been as mediocre as other disciples in the valley for a lifetime. The cultivation technique I taught you must be diligently practiced. 1,000 years later, this world might be a completely different place. Even if Mahayana remains powerful, its status will surely be lower than now. Master, rest assured, I will not disgrace you. It's not about disgracing me. You cultivate for yourself. Hee, I plan to follow you for life. You, Oxhead, are you planning on sticking with me? I hope Master will show mercy. The collapse of the Seven Stars spirit realm caused greater turmoil over the ocean. When Guwen went to Immortal Seeking Island, many people were discussing it. At the private gathering of Sage Tanghai that he attended, those cultivators were also amazed by Sword Venerable Fudeo's strength. After this battle, the name of Sword Venerable Fudao spread across the sea, gaining wider fame than on the continent. The turmoil at sea didn't affect the continent. The Star Sea congregations and the surrounding major forces did not dare touch the continent where Sword Venerable Fudao resided. Instead, many cultivators rushed to the continent seeking opportunities. In this context, the continent welcomed peace. Gu An's life also became more stable. He focused on planting medicinal herbs, waiting for the outer world cave to yield a harvest. During the waiting period, he continuously expanded the cave, planting more medicinal herbs. Nowadays, he could move the outer world cave, so he felt more secure in planting. Tian Qing and Tian Bai helped Tian Yaoer with many affairs, and there had been no incidents in the outer world cave and Yanchu cave. In the blink of an eye, time flew by. 10 years passed. This year, Xiaochuan released his primordial reincarnation skill, breaking through to the Foundation establishment realm. His ultimate lifespan reached 286 years, far less than Yilan's. This was related to his attitude towards cultivation. He was not as diligent as Yilan. No matter what, Xiaochuan could at least live another 100 years. After releasing his cultivation level, Xiaochuan bade farewell to Guwen. He planned to return to his hometown and experience the life of an ordinary person again. If possible, he would have children. Although Guwen did not see him off, he protected Xiaochuan along the way with his divine sense, fearing any mishap. Half a month later, when Xiaochuan returned to his hometown, Guwen temporarily shifted his attention away from him. In the middle of summer, the Third Medicine Valley welcomed visitors. Guwen personally greeted them and saw a man and woman walking from the valley entrance. Yang and I, Divinity Transformation Stage 5th Level 318/1200/1360, Li Lingtian, Foundation Establishment Realm 9th Layer 18/350/8999. Guwen's gaze fell on Yang and I. She was Li Ya's mother's younger sister. When the ephemera sect caused trouble back then, she was involved. After protecting Guwen for a while, she left. Over the years, Guwen would occasionally catch glimpses of her with his divine sense. She wandered all over, cultivating in various places. She occasionally encountered trouble, but on the whole lived fairly well. Yang and I was dressed in red, with a treasure sword at her waist. Her face was still as delicate. She seemed a bit dazed seeing Guwen from afar. The boy she once needed to protect had now become a core formation realm cultivator, and his appearance had also greatly changed. Following Yang and I, Li Lingtian glanced around, seemingly looking for someone. The 18-year-old Li Lingtian wore white clothes with gold patterns and a golden dragon pearl crown on his head. He had an elegant demeanor. Honestly, Guwen thought he was more handsome than Li Ya. Whether I'm the real Yang Jian, this fake Sun Wukong will soon know. Guan squatted beside Li Lingtan and said softly, "Your talent is indeed rare, but you must always maintain a reverence for the world. Remember, there are always people stronger than you. If your opponent today had been your enemy, you would be dead." Li Lingtian clenched his fists, his body trembling even more violently. Yang and I said nothing. After the initial shock, she even felt somewhat gloating. The whole journey, Li Lingshan's arrogance was unbearable for her, and seeing someone put him in his place was rather satisfying. She didn't like Li Lingtian, and had even less fondness for Empress Yang. Yang Jian remained silent. He felt he wasn't qualified to teach Li Lingtian. The only reason he was stronger was that he had a master that others didn't have. Guan took out an elixir and fed it to Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian slowly got up, turned towards Yang Jian, and even though his face was bloody, his expression was still stubborn. "I won't accept this. I will win next time," Li Lingtian said through gritted teeth. Yang Jian raised his hand, scaring Li Lingtian into retreating behind Guan. But on closer inspection, Yang Jian was simply saluting him. Li Lingtian, both relieved and embarrassed, wished he could find a hole to crawl into. Yang and I laughed. "With your current state, you still dare to challenge him again? Perhaps you should focus on becoming stronger first." Li Lingtian took a deep breath and looked at Guan. "Senior brother Gu, can I stay in your medicine valley?" He wanted to see how Yang Jian usually trained. All his life, he hadn't been lazy, and he even had no friends, dedicating himself entirely to cultivation. But this complete defeat was difficult to accept. "No problem, if you have any issues in the valley, go to Jenner. After all, he's technically your junior," Guan said with a smile, causing Li Lingtian to brighten up. Yang Jian felt a headache coming on. 10 years ago, he had heard Guan mention Li Lingtian, which gave him pressure. Now, it seemed Li Lingtian was just like this. His real opponent was still that senior brother he had never met. So, the four of them left the woods and returned to the third medicine valley. The disciples in the valley were curious about what had happened when they saw the previously high-spirited Li Lingtian looking so pitiful. Yang and I didn't stay long. After chatting with Guan for a while, she flew off to the inner sect, seemingly carrying out a mission. After handing Li Lingtian over to Yang Jian, Guan went upstairs to read. Until evening, Li Lingtian, now dressed in clean clothes, walked out of his courtyard, not seeing Yang Jian, so he wandered around. Soon he was attracted by some disciples playing chess and went over to watch. Unfortunately, neither Go nor Chinese chess interested him. His eyes were caught by the passing Blood Prison Great Saint. Blood Prison Great Saint was cursing, frustrated after failing to catch a white spirit rat. She stood up, put the book on the table into her storage bag and then left. Guan did not stop her. He couldn't be bothered to cater to her whims. He sat back in the treasured chair that Shenzhen had occupied earlier, communicating with the divine exotic immortal spirit in his heart. "Are you sure?" he asked in his heart. The voice of the divine exotic immortal spirit sounded, "Sure, it's definitely his aura. Although I have never seen him, the city retains his aura. I cannot be mistaken. The former master of Divine Exotic City is in that rift." The rift it mentioned was the one that spanned the ocean. Its appearance had even led to rumors of a world-destroying sea tide. The Divine Exotic Immortal Spirit had just sensed the aura of the former master of Divine Exotic City from that rift. Guan wanted to know the former master's cultivation level from it, but unfortunately, it did not know. In its words, the Divine Exotic City had been born after it left that person's hands. This was true for all immortal spirit treasures. They could only serve one master. Once the master perished, the immortal spirit would also vanish. At this moment, Leo was still in the star-sea congregations, far from the ocean rift. Only the divine exotic immortal spirit sensed that aura. When Guan looked at the rift, he saw many cultivators fleeing from it, as if something terrifying was chasing them. When his divine sense approached the rift, he felt a powerful aura that deterred him from recklessly probing further. The presence that he could feel was strong. There might be a carefree primordial immortal hidden in the rift. Guan withdrew his divine sense, no longer paying attention to it. The world had countless major forces, and there were numerous great cultivators. As long as they didn't threaten him, he was too lazy to meddle. After all, that rift was extremely remote from the mainland, separated by 2 continents and countless islands. Guan chatted with the divine exotic immortal spirit for a while longer. Once he was sure that the former master could no longer control divine exotic city, he felt relieved. He got up and went downstairs. As he walked down the stairs, he saw the busy disciples in the valley, and a smile appeared on his face. The calamities in this world never cease, but if they can be delayed by a few decades, it can grant a generation a stable life. Guan thought this and then walked towards the place where the most disciples were gathered. Under an old tree, dozens of disciples were gathered, discussing fervently. Among them were 2 people playing Go, one of whom was the 9-fingered Divine Lord. The other was the best Go player in the valley, one of the senior disciples in the valley, respectfully addressed as Elder Lu. He had stayed in the 3rd Medicine Valley for 100 years, from youth to old age. Because of his modest cultivation talent, he never thought of leaving the valley. At this moment, Elder Lu was frowning deeply, with his right hand holding the Go piece trembling, hesitant to play. The 9-fingered Divine Lord's expression was calm, but he was internally sighing in relief. This old man's Go skills were too formidable. He almost lost. Since playing Go in the 3rd Medicine Valley, the 9-fingered Divine Lord had become fascinated with the game, feeling that it contained infinite mysteries similar to the essence of the heavenly Tao. Therefore, he frequently came to the 3rd Medicine Valley to play. Go was invented by Guan and had yet to be widely promoted. Currently, it was only popular in the Medicine Valley. Guan created Go merely out of boredom. He did not intend to promote it. Even in his past life, he was simply an enthusiast of the game. At this moment, Guan squeezed through the crowd and saw Elder Lu sweating profusely. He couldn't help but say, "Xiao Lu, why don't I play for you? Shameless wandering immortal, bullying my Medicine Valley mortals? Intolerable." Elder Lu looked up and saw it was Guan, then quickly stepped aside. The other disciples were excited. In their minds, Guan was the best Go player since he invented the game. As Guan sat down, the 9-fingered Divine Lord smiled and said, "Little friend, do you think there is still a chance in this game?" Guan laughed. "If you came 3 moves later, there would indeed be no hope." The smile on the 9-fingered Divine Lord's face froze instantly. A wandering immortal's prowess in Go lay in their ability to simulate countless possibilities in an instant, choosing the best moves. From the first move Elder Lu made, the 9-fingered Divine Lord had already seen the outcome. Knowing the rules of Go, the 9-fingered Divine Lord could surely win against ordinary folks. However, it was precisely because he could simulate countless possibilities that he appreciated the subtleties of the game. He did not play Go to win but to experience the process and comprehend his own Daoist sorcery within the game. He did not expect Guan to see through his strategy. Under his gaze, Guan placed a piece on the board, turning the tides instantly, making him frown. He immediately placed a piece, and Guan followed suit. Unlike others who played slowly, these 2 played at lightning speed. They were competing in their ability to simulate. The disciples around them watched, barely daring to breathe. Li Lingtian also squeezed in to join the excitement. Seeing the aura of the 2 playing, he was interested in Go for the first time. One piece after another, the sound of pieces being placed formed a melody, exuding a sharp aura. Suddenly, the 9-fingered Divine Lord paused, withdrew his hand hanging in the air, placed the piece down, and said, "I lost." As soon as he said this, cheers erupted around them. Elder Lu wiped the sweat off his forehead, revealing a broad smile. The 9-fingered Divine Lord stared at Guan, as if trying to see through him. Tian Yaoer stood up immediately, excitedly speaking with her eyes wide open and her teeth gritting, looking somewhat demonic rather than her usual cute self. Guwen helplessly said, "Why are you so agitated?" "Not the not. I am unwilling to accept anyway." Tian Yaoer sat down and turned her head away. Tianqing chuckled and said, "The young lady doesn't want to be a disciple. She wants to be the mistress." Hearing this, Tian Yaoer's pretty face turned a bright red. She wasn't angry, and Guwen noticed that she stealthily gave a thumbs up to Tianqing, a very concealed action hiding under her sleeves. Tian Bai joined in the fun, teasing Tian Yao. Tian Yaoer tried to clear it up, but the more she explained, the worse it got. Guwen watched their stage performance and secretly sighed. "Looks like I need to help them improve their acting skills in the future. It's too clumsy. It won't be reliable to let them handle tasks." That night, at their persistent request, Guwen chose to stay overnight. Under the tree, Guwen leaned against the trunk, holding a book in his hands. Tian Yaoer was reading Journey to the West, but her mind was entirely on him. She looked at the mask on Guwen's face, wanting to take it off but afraid Guwen would get angry. Though their relationship was already close, she always feared losing everything. Even when acting spoiled, she gauged Guwen's tone, afraid of his displeasure. "You want to take off my mask?" Guwen suddenly asked. Tian Yaoer instinctively wanted to deny it but couldn't help nodding upon hearing his gentle tone. Upon hearing this, Guwen took off his mask and placed it on Tian Yaoer's face. Tian Yaoer hurriedly pulled off the mask, thinking Guwen was teasing her, only to realize that Guwen hadn't put on another mask. Seeing Guwen's handsome face, she was stunned. Because Guwen always wore a mask, she always thought the worst, imagining he had an ugly or frightening face. She didn't expect such good looks. The reason Guwen was willing to remove his mask was that after so many years of interaction, Tian Yaoer was already completely isolated from external causes and effects. Even if she knew his true face, it wouldn't matter. Of course, the most important reason was that he was strong enough. Though not unmatched in the world, he could at least face all causes and effects on this land. "I know you've always wanted to see my face. Tonight, I'm letting you be happy. From tonight onwards, you must work harder in your cultivation. Stop overthinking. Since I've accepted you, I will not abandon you. You are destined to be the longest companion with me. Look to the long term. One day I will take you out to travel and see the world. Like the green bull spirit under Lord Lao Zi of the Great Monad in Journey to the West, it could trouble Sun Wukong. I hope you can also stand alone in the future. Your strength is my honor." Guwen spoke sincerely. These words were from his heart. Li Lingun observed the nine-finger divine lord and thought to himself that the elders of the supreme sect should be quite powerful, shouldn't they? Why not find an opportunity to spar with him? Li Lingtian urgently needed a victory to build his confidence. The cultivation of other disciples in the valley was too weak to mention. He couldn't bypass Yang Jian to challenge Guwen, so he set his sights on the nine-finger divine lord. This old man liked playing chess with mortals. Maybe he could also spar with him, a junior. He could ask him to suppress his cultivation realm to the core formation realm. He wanted to see if he could fight across realms. Although losing to Yang Jian deeply frustrated him, he didn't think he lacked talent. He just chose the wrong opponent. He didn't believe he could choose wrong twice. If he couldn't even beat senior brother Gu in chess, then he surely wouldn't be better in combat. Thinking of this, Li Lingtian showed a silly smile on his face. Under the tree, the nine-finger divine lord lifted his head and looked at Guwen, asking in a deep voice, "Impossible. I shouldn't have lost to you. Who exactly are you?" He was a wandering immortal. Why did he lose? Guwen looked up and smiled smugly, saying, "I am an immortal. What do you say to that?" "An immortal? Exactly, you can call me the chess immortal. Get lost." Tihih. Guwen turned and left, his sleeves brushing away. Watching his back, the nine-finger divine lord revealed a bitter smile. No matter how he looked at it, Guwen didn't seem like a disguised great cultivator. Though his cultivation was at the level of a wandering immortal, His vision far surpassed that realm. He couldn't help but shift his gaze back to the chessboard. Could it be that he hadn't truly understood the game of Go? Even after deducing countless possibilities, so what? Go was all about variability. The nine-finger divine lord furrowed his brows, falling into deep thought. Spring passed and summer came, and the temperature of the world continued to rise. On this day, Guan brought Yang Jian and Li Lingtian to Tianya Valley. He rode on the back of the blood prison Great Saint's Bull, slowly moving forward. Li Lingtian followed behind, dispirited. Obviously they could fly, but instead they had to walk. Was senior brother Gu intentionally tormenting him? But seeing Yang Jian walk calmly, he could only endure. He couldn't lose to Yang Jian in this regard. Rumble. Thunder roared in the distance, and Li Lingtian turned back to see storm clouds churning on the horizon. Yang Jian seemed to sense something, stopped, turned back to look, and frowned deeply. Li Lingtian walked over and asked in confusion, "What's wrong?" Yang Jian ignored him, turned, and followed the blood prison Great Saint. Li Lingtian felt hurt. Yang Jian's indifference always made him frustrated. He understood that in Yang Jian's eyes, he wasn't worth mentioning. Yes, if he were Yang Jian, he wouldn't talk much with someone significantly weaker either. Yang Jian came up to Guan and asked, "Master, I have an uneasy feeling as if something big is going to happen." Guan replied, "Perhaps indeed a disaster is looming." Yang Jian asked in confusion, "Could it be that the Seven Stars spirit realm hasn't given up?" Guan didn't answer but instructed, "Carefully sense it. I want to know what you can feel." When Li Xiandao saw Yang Jian, he was amazed by his talent and growing fond of him. He was very enthusiastic in his questioning, showing extreme concern, which Guan thought surpassed his previous treatment of himself. When Li Lingtian entered the courtyard and saw this scene, he felt even worse. After chatting for over an ancient hour, Li Xiandao decided to give Yang Jian a gift, asking what he wanted. Yang Jian instinctively looked at Guan, which intrigued Li Xiandao. What had Guan done to enamor Yang Jian like this? He had always believed that someone more formidable was behind Guan, and that Guan was just a guise. He had suspected Guan of hiding his strength, but having known him since the age of 15, nothing could have been faked. Knowing Li Zuando's identity, Yang Jian said, "I would like a weapon I can wield comfortably, heavier but not too large." Li Xiandao laughed. "Are you serious, Yang Jian?" Yang Jian, showing an embarrassed look for the first time, nodded in agreement. Li Xiandao immediately agreed, promising to give him a satisfactory weapon within 3 years. In the end, Li Xiandao didn't extend any invitations or try to recruit Yang Jian. Guan, who had earlier considered recruiting Yang Jian for the military, realized he had been overthinking. As Guan prepared to leave, Li Xiandao instructed Li Lingtian to continue following him. Guan didn't refuse, thinking that in the Third Medicine Valley with so many people, one more mouth wouldn't matter. Li Xiandao likely didn't expect him to guide Li Lingtian in anything specific. Cranes flew across the sky in rows, and the sea breeze blew into the Immortal seeking island. Guan walked through the streets with Yang Jian, and Hu Shaojian led them beside Guan. Today marked Guan's first time bringing Yang Jian to Immortal seeking island, where Yang Jian looked around in amazement, finding everything novel. He was curious about how far this island was from the Supreme Sect. Guan instructed Hu Shaojian to introduce Immortal Seeking Island to Yang Jian. Hu Shaojian enthusiastically complied, leaving a good impression on Yang Jian. The more Yang Jian learned about Immortal Seeking Island, the more astonished he became. Compared to the Supreme Sect, Immortal Seeking Island seemed like a place of true immortals, with so many immortals coming and going frequently. As Hu Shaojian introduced the island, he also guided Guan to purchase high-rank medicinal herb seeds. 2 ancient hours later, Guan brought them to Sage Tang Hai's residence. Over the years, Hu Shaojian had become one of Guan's people. During Guan's absences, Sage Tang Hai had taken good care of him, so he was familiar with the residence. Today, Many immortal path cultivators were in the residence, with more than 10 loose immortals and over 40 in the nirvana realm. These cultivators were Sage Tanghai's friends, who were all familiar with Guan. Not only was Guan a loose immortal, but his wealth was also astonishing. Especially after cultivating immortality, the weight of love was even smaller. So-called love itself began with desire. Cultivating immortality and cultivating the mind naturally could control physical desires, but spiritual desires would become greater. In the early years, Yi Lan had thrived in the outer disciple Deacon Hall, and she still had a desire for power in her heart. However, this desire was less important compared to her regard for Guan, which made her very hesitant. Hearing Guan's words, Yi Lan felt reasonable, nodded, and said teasingly, "If I leave, won't you, senior brother, feel more at ease?" Guan said indignantly, "What are you talking about? I feel at ease whether you are here or not." Yi Lan couldn't help but lightly hit him. Guan reminded her not to slack off in her practice after going to the subsect. The senior brother and sister chatted and began to reminisce about the past. As dusk approached, Yi Lan left. Guan had just sat down at his desk and was about to flip through a book when he suddenly sensed something. He directed his divine sense towards the great Jiang dynasty. The long-hidden primordial Daoist talisman had finally made a move. It merged into the abdomen of a woman from a Ji family branch, which surprised Guan. Was this considered reincarnation? After reaching the carefree primordial immortal realm, Guan could already spy on the yin-yang rules of the world, but he still couldn't see where reincarnation was. Those souls would rise into the sky within 7 days after death, disappear after reaching a certain height, and those that did not rise within 7 days would turn into vengeful spirits, repelled by the heaven and earth rules. To survive, they had to harm living spirits and absorb their essence energy to enhance their ghostly energy, growing stronger step by step. After Ji Xiaoyu's death, her soul had been hiding in the primordial Daoist talisman, unlike other ghosts who persecuted living beings. Under Guan's watch, the primordial Daoist talisman completely merged with the woman's aura, as if it had disappeared out of thin air. Who knew if this Ji Xiaoyu would have the memories of her past life? Guan remembered that Ji Xiaoyu had seemed mature beyond her years as a child, unlike normal children. Perhaps she had always retained her past life memories but had hidden them well. After watching for a while, Guan withdrew his gaze. The moonlight was slightly cool, and the evening breeze blew in through the window, moving Guan's sideburns. This breeze lasted another 10 years. 10 years passed, the world changed greatly, and the territories of the 3 dynasties were unified. Only the Taizong dynasty remained, and for the people, it was truly peace under heaven. Taizong focused on development, exploring the world by sea and mining resources in the north. With the increase in resources, all industries within the dynasty flourished. The same was true for the immortal cultivation world, with new sects constantly emerging. For example, the Juhua sect was the most rapidly developing sect in these 10 years and was already one of the top 9 sects in Taizong, with the Supreme Sect ranked first and the Zongtian Sect second. The subsect of the Supreme Sect had already been established, and various news kept flowing into the Supreme Sect, making all disciples feel the sect's rise. The treatment of disciples from the Medicine Valley also improved, and the time disciples stayed in the Medicine Valley began to shorten, proving that the Supreme Sect was investing more resources into their cultivation, reducing the time for servant disciples to reach foundation establishment. One day, Guan had just arrived at the 3rd Medicine Valley from Mystic Valley. He turned his head and saw a crowd in front of the nearby pavilions, all gathered to watch a Go game. He didn't know when it started, but Go had begun to be popular in the Supreme Sect, and Go masters always came to the 3rd Medicine Valley. Guan knew it was because the 9-Finger Divine Lord liked to play Go here. He had become the biggest promoter of Go. Moreover, with his current cultivation level at the Mahayana realm, the Hall of Elders couldn't help but flatter him. Last month, LV Bain had even asked him if he wanted to organize a Go tournament, but he refused. Currently, Go was only popular within the Supreme Sect, and it was too early to hold a tournament. The most important reason was that the Nine-Finger Divine Lord wanted to hold the tournament in the Third Medicine Valley. How could he agree to that? Wouldn't that affect him planting medicinal herbs? Guwen only watched for a while before heading towards his pavilion. Now the Nine-Finger Divine Lord seldom asked Guwen to play Go, probably focusing on improving his Go skills. The person playing Go with the Nine-Finger Divine Lord was a cultivator at the Unification Realm and also an elder of the sect. Those old cultivators whose cultivation levels had stagnated easily became addicted to Go. Guwen suddenly sensed something, piquing his interest. He immediately called for the Blood Prison Great Saint and rode him towards the Outer Gate City. Foundation establishment realm mounts were not uncommon in the current Supreme Sect. If one stayed at the Third Medicine Valley for half a day, one would surely see disciples riding mounts flying over the Medicine Valley. "Master, why did you suddenly want to go to the Outer Gate City?" the Blood Prison Great Saint asked curiously. "Lu Lingjun has returned and is taking people to the Heavenly Repair Platform. She probably wants to try the Heaven-Cutting Axe," Guwen replied casually. The Blood Prison Great Saint was immediately interested. He knew Lu Lingjun had founded the Ascension Sect, and those she brought might be Ascenders. As Ascenders, they would naturally want to learn more about each other. Zuijian, seeing her hesitation, said impatiently, "Hurry up. There are people waiting. When the ancient hour arrives, not even the Lord of a holy land can make an exception." Loose immortal or whatever immortal, in the Supreme Sect, everyone had to follow the rules. The Holy Mother of Western Spirit was not angered. She raised her right hand, her snow-white palm reaching out to grasp the heaven-cutting axe. She could feel that the weight was not from the heaven-cutting axe itself, but from the vast mana within it. After 2 attempts, she gave up and turned to leave. This disappointed the spectators. There was little commotion. They didn't expect the Holy Mother of Western Spirit to succeed, just wanted to see the lofty immortal in a moment of embarrassment. Lu Lingjun exchanged a few words with the Holy Mother of Western Spirit and then was about to leave when her eyes suddenly caught Guwen. "Guwen, why are you here?" Lu Lingjun transmitted her voice to Guwen while waving to him. However, he had lost his freedom and was unable to leave the Star Sea congregations without permission. While the sea was a scene of bloody turmoil, the mainland remained tranquil, with everything harmonious, at least within the Supreme Sect. Guwen sought out his friends in the Outer Sect for a drink, discussing upcoming interesting events or the romantic tales of the sect's aristocracy. The Supreme Sect was now very open, unlike the tense atmosphere of the past, and lower-level disciples discussing the great cultivators would not face retribution as a result. The noble families now cherished their reputations, fearing any scandal that would get them expelled from the Supreme Sect. With Sword Venerable Fudao present, the Supreme Sect had to abide by the rules of the righteous path. Of course, this was only within the Supreme Sect. If one offended a sect aristocrat, they might not act within the sect, but outside it, anything could happen. Until the night, Guwen finally rode back to the valley on the Blood Prison Great Saint. He held a wine gourd, reciting poetry, which the Blood Prison Great Saint praised as fine verse. Guwen thought he had good judgment, daring to praise any lousy poem, which was its own kind of realm. The arrival of the Holy Mother of Western Spirit did not shock the Supreme Sect, whose foundations were also quickly growing. Unless the Holy Mother of Western Spirit was coming to join the Supreme Sect, they would not mobilize for her. Another summer arrived. Guwen lay under the mystic pure tree, staring at his attribute panel. His lifespan had reached 25 million years. Although it was still far from 100 million years, the number already gave him a sense of security. Nearby, the White Spirit Rat and the Blood Prison Great Saint were playing. Although the White Spirit Rat could not yet speak, its maximum lifespan was continually increasing, and its reflex speed was beyond what the blood prison great saint of the Foundation establishment realm could match. Boom! A thunderous sound came from afar, alarming everyone in Medicine Valley. The blood prison great saint and the white spirit rat stopped and looked toward the horizon, their expressions tense. The nine-fingered divine lord, who had been playing chess, frowned and turned to look, extending his divine sense. His face quickly grew grim. Guwen was rather calm. The reason he was checking his attribute panel was that he sensed something significant was happening. Before the loud noise, a powerful force had erupted from the bottom of the sea-breaking rift, causing immense waves on either side. The waves continued to escalate and were now reaching a height of 300 zhang as they surged toward the mainland, growing larger all the time. A large number of cultivators were rushing to the scene, trying to prevent the catastrophe. Guwen sensed a massive amount of eerie energy rising from the depths of the sea-breaking rift, predicting the emergence of divine exotic resentful ghosts. Divine exotic resentful ghosts were different from the divine soul demons of divine exotic city. They had their own spiritual wisdom and even retained memories of their former selves, but their personalities had drastically changed. They killed any living spirits they encountered, which caused the turmoil in the Seabast immortal cultivation world. The strength of divine exotic resentful ghosts was not the frightening part. The terror lay in their retained spiritual wisdom and memories, all of which had now turned against living spirits, hence the widespread fear. Having spiritual wisdom meant they could establish rules and even posed the possibility of overturning the mortal world. Guwen rose, realizing he could not appear too indifferent, as the entire valley was in shock and he had to cooperate with the rest. He wondered whether slaying the divine exotic resentful ghosts could extend his lifespan. If so, it might be worth intervening early. Yang Jian ran over, standing next to him, and whispered, "Master, I just had an illusion of being attacked by many demons and ghosts." Fear flashed in his eyes. It was not simply an illusion. He had felt as though he had experienced a near-death event. Somewhere in the unseen, it seemed as if something terrifying was approaching him. Guwen looked at Yang Jian and suddenly noticed that his karma had become blurred. He could no longer glimpse Yang Jian's past through their karmic connection. "Don't worry, just stay by my side." "What could happen?" "Focus on your cultivation," Guwen reassured him. Actually, he himself was unsure of the reason behind it. Although he was a carefree primordial immortal, he had only lived for 166 years and did not know much about the world. He could see through the heaven and earth rules, but he had not yet reached the point of omniscience. He guessed that the visions Yang Jian saw might be related to his physique. After all, the immortal seeking Daoist had said Yang Jian had some kind of ancient treasure body. Hearing Guwen's reassurance, Yang Jian immediately felt at ease. Right, with Master around, nothing could happen to him. Guwen then walked toward where his disciples were gathered, intending to discuss the matter with everyone and maintain his image as a core formation realm cultivator. At noon, Immortal Seeking Island. In a courtyard, the immortal seeking Daoist looked at Guwen with a peculiar expression. He poured a cup of wine for Guwen and asked, "How did Daoist friend Meng know I was here?" He had been back at Immortal Seeking Island for many years but had stayed in his residence without going out. Guwen replied, "I knew when you first returned. Back then, a lot of people were aware. I came to see you today because my disciple encountered a problem." Upon hearing it concerned Yang Jian, the immortal seeking Daoist lost interest in questioning how Guwen knew he was on the island and asked about the issue instead. Guwen did not hold anything back. After listening, the immortal seeking Daoist's expression became complicated. He sighed and said, "Ancient treasure bodies have a self-protection instinct. His treasure body must have sensed danger, likely related to the sea-breaking rift. There may be another treasure body hidden there. I have heard that ancient treasure bodies have a competitive and perceptive nature among themselves, especially innate ancient treasure bodies which can sense each other's existence and will attempt to devour one another. If that treasure body does come from the sea-breaking rift, it might be a deceased ancient strongman who has turned into a divine exotic resentful ghost. In that case, it will be a big problem." He had returned to Immortal's Seeking Island to avoid catastrophe. At this moment, he even considered fleeing Immortal's Seeking Island because he feared Guwen might bring Yang Jian along. Admiration aside, the Immortal Seeking Taoist would not die for Yang Jian. Not his disciple. Even if it were his disciple, he would abandon them. The Immortal Seeking Taoist looked at Guwen, hesitating to speak, wanting to persuade Guwen to give up on Yang Jian, but he felt that saying so would be pointless. Guwen would weigh the situation himself, and saying more would only make him unhappy. Guwen became thoughtful. The tsunami that had erupted yesterday continued to rise. Cultivators tried to stop it but had no success. The waves contained some powerful force that neutralized all spiritual power and mana along the way. One day passed, and the wave's crest had already surpassed 1,000 zhang. 1,000 zhang high wave was incredibly imposing, swallowing countless sea islands along its path. Currently, wandering immortals of the Star Sea congregations were still attempting to hold back the waves but without success. The Immortal Seeking Taoist saw Gu and was deep in thought and did not disturb him, leisurely playing with his wine cup. After a while, Guwen thanked the Immortal Seeking Taoist and then stood up to leave. The Immortal Seeking Taoist did not try to keep him, realizing that Gu An's visit had provided more information. The thought of an ancient treasure body reaching completion and emerging filled him with dread. No, he had to escape. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.